during the winter season, the demand for electricity will also be too much. We just hope that the department, together with the entity called ESCOM, they've adequately dealt with the issue of load shedding, and the load reduction. It's indeed the responsibility of the municipalities. And we know that there's a committee who have not really done much work around the electricity or the alternatives in terms of the IPPs and so on. We were supposed to have been in Cradock about 2 weeks back. We couldn't go to Cradock because we were then redirected to go to Klerksdorp. We already identified the date, DM. We identified the 1st to the 5th of June to go to Cradock. But I received the information that the House Chair has requested that we look on another date because there's a possibility that we could be debating the budget votes of this very same department, either on the 2nd or on the 4th. They're just trying to finalize the availability of the department, especially the political heads, so that we then have to look on another date for us to go to Cradock. Ours going to Cradock is to precisely deal with the issue of electricity, because it's one thing that we have not really attempted to deal with. We have not dealt with anything that has to do with the nuclear energy. We see what's happening in Iran and the United States together with the Israeli, and the politics behind the nuclear energy and the power of the nuclear. I know that there's a country who are the first one to voluntarily disassemble our nuclear plant, but I think moving forward, we'll have a program that really concentrate on work that needs to be done around energy and electricity, because the energy availability to this country, I don't know if it's true, DM, you would know better. I saw somewhere that Botswana has since decided to cut the electricity to South Africa, mainly because of the so-called xenophobic attacks that are taking place in the country. I also read somewhere that I think it's Tanzania. They've also taken the similar stance to give South Africans in Tanzania 48 hours to leave Tanzania because of the xenophobic issues that are taking place in South Africa. I'm saying this, I'm not sure if it's true. I've not had the opportunity to verify whether these are true or not. It's just information that one has and information that one has seen. So with those few words, DM, I know you are one of those that are forever available whenever committee has to have a meeting, especially when the minister is not around. And I know that we have not had an opportunity to have a meeting, a physical meeting with the minister present. The last meeting we had with the minister was virtual, where he was present. We have had about 2 or 3 meetings with you, physical meetings where you were present. And you have done something that to this day still earned my respect. Even during the bereavement, the family bereavement, you still made sure that you prioritize the work of government and attend to your family bereavement immediately after dealing with government work. And for that, to me, has made sure that you earn my respect, and I will forever respect you for that. You take your government responsibilities and the people of South Africa very serious, and I'm truly humbled by that. So without wasting any time, the agenda has been presented. Can we move for the adoption of the agenda so that we are able to move with our meeting?
Good morning, Chair Mapule.
Honorable Dlamini.
Good morning, Chair and colleagues in the meeting. I move for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Honorable Dlamini, move for the adoption of the agenda. Do we have a seconder? Honorable Pina, I see your hand.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and colleagues.
Honorable Pinar?
Yes, Chairperson. Am I audible?
Now you are.
Oh, apologies. Good morning, colleagues. I second Honorable Dlamini.
Honorable Pinar seconds the adoption of the agenda. Honorable Notata?
I was lying low in case Honorable Pinar doesn't get back in any way. I wanted to second the agenda, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Pinar supports Honorable Nodada supports Honorable Pinar in seconding the proposal of Honorable Dlamini. So our agenda has been adopted. We therefore move swiftly to the Deputy Minister for her opening political remarks, and then we'll get the presentation. We'll hand over to you, DM. We'll only come back once the presentation has been finalized.
Absolutely. Chairperson, thank you very much. And thank you very much for your very kind words. I truly appreciate it. And yes, we do, both the Minister and I do take our responsibilities to Parliament very seriously. The Minister was really adamant he was going to be at this meeting, but unfortunately he has been called away to meet with the President of Mozambique. So he asked me if I would then stand in for him, which I'm always happy to do because I so enjoy engaging with your committee. Obviously, we're here today to present our strategic plan and our APP for the next sort of couple of years. So although it's a strategic plan for the next financial year, or the APPs are for the next financial year, this is also includes our strategic plan, because it's important that you know not only where we're going to, but I'm going to give you a little bit of context as to where we're coming from. So as you'll know, we have only been in operation as a department for a year. The 1st of April marked the first year of our functioning as the Department of Electricity and Energy. And obviously we're still facing a number of challenges within the department, one of those being staffing. We still haven't appointed a full-time Director General, and I must tell you that it is not an easy task to appoint a Director General and to find the right person who can combine a vision for what we're trying to achieve in this department with the administrative know-how that would ensure that we have a department that functions effectively and meets its obligations and is administratively and financially sound. So we are taking our time in doing this because I think it's important that we appoint the right person as opposed to just appointing a person for the sake of appointing. So we are being very deliberate in our appointment. We have gone out to the market. We have looked at shortlisting. We are now looking at reopening for additional applications. So that's where we're at in terms of the DG position. Fortunately, we have an exceptionally good person as an acting DG who has really taken up the challenge of establishing the department and ensuring that it gets off to a good start. So that makes it a lot easier, takes the pressure off us in terms of formalizing a Director General for the department. We're also in the process of finalizing the CFO appointment. I think we're very close to having that finalized. So that will also be an exceptionally good thing, but we've had a very, very good acting CFO who has certainly managed the processes effectively. And the other position that we are busy with at the moment is the Chief Director of Corporate Services. So those are the three major positions that we are busy with at the moment. And we'll obviously talk more to the organisation. We have appointed an external company to do an organisational design, because one of the things we have felt is that this department we want a new look government department. We don't want the same old that's happened in the past. And, you know, the energy space is constantly evolving. It's a very exciting and innovative space. And we need to know that we've got a department that is agile and that can really respond to what is happening in the energy space. So we have gone out and gotten a new organizational design, which has now been done. It'll be presented at MinExco. We have a MinExco Lekgotla coming up later on in this week. And then obviously that'll be adopted, and then we need to implement. So we're very excited to see how our new look department is going to operate into the next few years. The sector itself has undergone a major transformation, as I said, and this is why we have to be very careful about how we position ourselves. As you know, the Electricity Regulation Amendment Act has come into being, and that's brought a number of reforms that we have to then ensure take place. And, you know, those come with their own complications, the unbundling of Eskom, the South African wholesale energy market, you know, all of that is a brand new look and feel for the country, and that needs to be carefully managed. We finally obviously have the IRP, which everybody was waiting 6 years for, the new IRP. It's a 2.2 trillion rand investment plan. So we're not seeing this as just an electricity blueprint. We're seeing this as an investment plan. And we're obviously, again, going out to market to see how we can bring in private sector and international funding into ensuring that we can deliver on this IRP. But we're very excited about what that means for this country in terms of not only energy and electricity, but also in terms of reindustrialization. We've got the gas master plan, which we're busy with at the moment. We're actually presenting tomorrow to the portfolio committee in Parliament, and that's well underway. There are electricity reforms that are underway at the moment that we're busy developing. We're looking at the electricity pricing policy. That's somewhere down the road. It's a very complex and very complicated document, but we are working hard on that because, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, Chairperson, energy pricing is becoming an issue for the average person. And we need to make sure that while we're striving for 100% universal access, we're not making it prohibitive for people who have access to energy to actually be able to use it. So electricity pricing policy is fundamental now in terms of how we take energy forward. And then obviously the South African wholesale electricity market is going to be a game changer for this country, particularly for the likes of Eskom, who are obviously giving up their monopolistic status as we then go into a competitive electricity market. We foresee that obviously bringing in new challenges, but we're very excited for what that means for South Africa. In terms of our objectives as a department, obviously we're looking at universal access. It's something we're focusing very significantly on. We are talking, and I'm sure you'll hear a little bit later about Mission 1.6. So we've identified that we are at about 94% penetration rate for electricity in this country. We're now looking at how we can bring in the last 1.6 million households to make sure that we have universal access. So that is a very strong focus of the department. And that means us looking at moving from the traditional formal housing, formal electricity provisioning to things that are outside of the box thinking in terms of things like microgrids and alternative energy sources to ensure that people who are not part of the formal housing sort of environment are getting access to electricity in alternative methodologies. We also obviously of primary concern, and again you mentioned the load shedding, and we're well over 300 days now without any load shedding, which is a fantastic achievement, and we're very proud of Eskom for having gotten us to this point. But energy security remains one of our major focuses and one of our major priorities, and we are obviously looking at ways that we can make sure that energy security remains something that we fight for every day. Transmission expansion and modernization. We can't ensure energy security and we can't ensure universal access if we can't take our electrons to people who need it. So transmission expansion and modernization is obviously a primary focus, and we've got the independent transmission program that is underway. We should be announcing the next stage of that probably within the next couple of months. And again, we're looking at ways that we can bring in private sector and direct foreign investment into that program to ensure that we're not having to carry the cost of that expansion and modernization. Industrialization remains a priority for us, and obviously SARIM is then the vehicle in which we are looking at the industrialization of the renewable energy space. And SARIM is well underway. We have established the project management office. We have work streams now that are in existence and task teams that are looking at the various areas. We have already got we've made some strides in terms of the skills development component of that, and we're very excited as to where we are with SARIM and where it's taking us. And then women and youth obviously is cross-cutting. That applies to all the areas in which we're working. We are looking at a number of initiatives around women and youth involvement in the energy space. And also what we are very focused on is our one G20 legacy outcome that we got out of the Energy Transition Working Group, which speaks to clean cooking. A lot of people think that clean cooking is a sort of feel-good, heart project. But what they don't realize is that clean cooking unlocks a host of other opportunities, not least of which include women and youth in that space, job creation, the last mile infrastructure that we are developing. But it also speaks to a number of concerns and a number of cross-cutting areas like health. We have subsequently spoken to various NGOs and role players, and the lack of access to clean cooking costs globally 2 billion rand a year in terms of the health implications. So clean cooking is not just about the pot. Clean cooking is about ensuring that we are cutting health costs, that we are addressing environmental concerns, that we are ensuring that women and young girls in particular are being given opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have if they were spending their time trying to find fuel for cooking. And then obviously we're looking at the women and youth element where we can create jobs around the clean cooking imperative. So women and youth remain a fundamental focus of our department. We have embarked on Operation Clean Audit. As you know, 4 of our entities received clean audits. In fact, 5 of our entities received clean audits. The only one obviously was Eskom, which remains historically challenged in terms of its sort of audit outcomes. But we are obviously working on that. Nexa, you were speaking of the nuclear issues earlier on, Chairperson. So in terms of our nuclear entities, Nexa, as you know, the National Energy Corporation of South Africa, at the moment is embarking on on 2 big projects. So one is to build our next multi-purpose reactor, to work in conjunction initially with Safari and then ultimately take over from Safari when Safari is ultimately retired. So they're busy at the moment looking at the multi-purpose reactor. They have some funding for that initially, but we're looking at about 1.2 billion rand for that. And then they're also, at the moment, they've gone out on a request for information to look at small modular reactor technologies to understand which is going to be the best approach for us when we start delving into that facility. And we're also looking at the fuel cycle from an Nexa perspective and how we can start creating our own fuel for our nuclear both the nuclear reactor at Koeberg and at Pelindaba, where we're doing our research. As you mentioned, we're part of the non-proliferation agreement, so we are obviously not going to be looking at high-grade fuel, but in creating our own low-grade fuel, which can be used for non-weapons usage. The NNR, the National Nuclear Regulator, we obviously have to look at capacity building in that entity, because that entity will ultimately be having to look at the SMR technologies, at the new multi-purpose reactor, and then obviously the new build that we're looking at, the 5.2 megawatt new build that we're looking at for energy purposes that Eskom will be undertaking. So the NNR is going to have to start building its own internal capacity. They do have plans and strategies for that. So we have no doubt that they will meet their obligations in that respect. And then in RADI, the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Institute, they got their license last year, which we were thrilled about. And they're now in the process of looking at their major build around high-level waste storage. So in RADI are operationally rebuilding and developing those processes. So we're very happy with the 3 nuclear entities. We believe that they are well on track to continue their excellent performance. We then have SANEDI, which is the South African National Energy Development Institute. SANEDI is the sort of think tank within the energy space and are doing an exceptional job in that regard. But we're also looking at ways for SANEDI to become entirely self-reliant, so that they are working on grants from external sources, that the work that they're doing is being paid for by other entities, other departments, and that they ultimately become a self-sustaining entity on their own. But for now, obviously, they do rely on grant funding. And we're very happy with the work that's being done at SANEDI. They're in the process of appointing a new CEO. The former CEO has moved to another entity. NERSA, we know that NERSA is not fit for purpose at this point and is going to require substantial capacity building, particularly in terms of its regulatory obligations. It is something we're obviously looking at, and I'm sure more will be said around that later in the presentation. But we do know that there is work that needs to be done there. And then obviously Eskom is an ongoing project. There's a lot that has to be done around Eskom. Eskom has to reposition itself within the market with the wholesale electricity market coming into play, and then losing a lot of market share in terms of private solar, private wind, and other challenges to their existing customer base. Hopefully, as you mentioned, so just to clarify, Botswana gets their power from us. It's not the other way around. So I don't know why they're posturing at this point. But we foresee that Eskom will be playing a far greater role in the region as we go forward and we start building the interconnectors between us and the rest of Africa. I'm not sure what Tanzania's position is, and I'm not really in a position to comment on their international relations positioning, but certainly we see ourselves playing a far greater role in the region in terms of energy provisioning, and we foresee that Eskom will take a major role in that. And then finally, obviously, our major focus remains on the electricity or energy quadrilemma, as we call it. And that's where we need to speak to security of supply, we need to speak to affordability, we need to speak to sustainability, and we need to speak to transformation. And we take all four of those very seriously, and we're making sure that we are focusing everything that we do on addressing those four issues as we go forward. I think that should give a fairly overarching platform for the presentation that will be done by the officials from the department. And I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you all today. So thank you very, very much, Chairperson.
Yes, DM. I thought once you are done, you'll then give it to the team. I don't know who's going to be doing the presentation, and we'll only come once the presentation is done.
I do apologize, Chairperson. That's my fault. So yes, I will be handing over to the acting DG, who will then obviously do the introductions and then take it through to the rest of the team. Thank you very much, Chair. My apologies.
No, thanks, DM. And maybe we must also ask the acting DG and the team that is going to present, Mr. Pillay, you and your team, that it's 10:30 now. Maybe by 11:15, the presentation should be done so that we have enough time to have engagement.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Good morning to yourself, members of the Deputy Minister, and my colleagues on the line. So I think that the 11 is perfect. I think the DM made an exceptional effort to run through the presentation, a very long presentation.
My apologies, my sincere apologies. Can Chair, through you, the presenters just open their video so that we see and then switch them back off? My sincere apologies, sir.
Honorable Montoya, you should have led by example. I know you know Honorable Pillay, or you don't know Mr. Pillay, but you also show your video so he can see you as you request to see him. Maybe I took it for granted because we have interacted with the department so many times, we know them by now. Can you do that, Honorable Montoya, so they see you?
Chair, I'll show my video. I did indicate that I'm at a police station attending to a matter of stock theft. Hence, I did not show my video.
Nice one. Mr. Pillay, can you just... Oh, there you are. Mr. Pillay, can you just show the video? Oh, I thought it was... I see it's Deputy Minister.
I thought I'd better show my face while everybody else is, so I do apologize that I didn't put my video on first. But I see Subesh's... Okay, there we go.
There you go. Thank you, DM. Thank you, Acting DG.
You muted, Subesh.
Oh, apologies. Good afternoon. Good morning, Chair, members, and Deputy Minister. Chair, can I just establish, am I visible? I can't see myself on the screen, so I don't know if you can see me.
We see you. We
Yes.
see you.
Okay.
We see.
Okay.
Even though we don't see the tie, but we see you.
Okay. Chair, I was saying that 11 o'clock is should do. The Deputy Minister has really taken us through the bulk of the presentation. So I think what I will do is just to nuance where it needs to, and then the rest of the colleagues will come in at different points of the presentation, but we'll wrap it up in the 30 minutes that you've allocated to us. Chair, if I can maybe just request the presentation to be flighted.
Yeah, it's 11:15, not 11 o'clock. So it's 45 minutes. You have
Okay,
45.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
fine. Thanks, Chair. If I may just request I can flight the presentation if that's easier, but if the colleagues have it.
Morning, sir. I was asked by the department to give you co-hosting rights so that you could flight the presentation, sir.
Okay, let me do that. Yeah, please pardon me. I'm using two screens, so is my screen visible now?
Yes,
It is
we can see
visible.
your screen. We can see everything.
Okay, perfect. Let me go through. I think I'm not going to waste time on these ones. This slide, Chair, I think the DM is, as I said, outlined the background and context. The simple point I would want to make is as we go through, you'll see that we've redesigned or reframed the APP very deliberately to move away from a policy articulation to really developing the capability within the department to ensure that we focus a great deal more on execution ability and capability towards security of supply, affordability, and sustainability. The department has a three-legged mandate, if you like. Firstly, that of a policy authority. So we set and update strategic policy directives for the sector. We design legislation and implement the legislation. We have a set of legislation that's in fact going now to revise the National Nuclear Energy Act through the parliamentary process. But that legislative scope extends to the electricity, gas, nuclear sectors, including pricing, planning, and the market reform work that we're doing. There's also a very deliberate effort to ensure that there's a whole of systems coordination. So as DM would have indicated, the entities form an integral part of our execution capability. So while we drive policy and strategy, our ability to interface with our entities is critical because that enables us to get into the execution mode. And then we say the third leg for the department to the point I'd made around execution capability is what we're calling delivery orchestration. And that is how we coordinate the mobilization of financing, project preparation, the infrastructure pipelines and program management across the generation, transmission, and universal access span, including in that is, of course, how we facilitate the industrialization of the South African economy through the interventions that we're undertaking, and in so doing, how we transform the energy demographics of both the sector and the country. As DM would have indicated, we've anchored the work of the department around the energy quadrilemma. Typically, in the energy space, It's defined as an energy trilemma. So it incorporates the energy security, sustainability, and affordability. And our proposition is that without the transformation aspect, those three legs will not complete or address itself to the South African grievance of poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment. So in whatever work we do in the energy sector, whilst we must ensure energy of security of supply, including affordability, sustainability, and affordability, we have to attend to the broader issues of economic participation in the work that we're doing in the economy. Again, DM's covered this, Chair, so I'll move on this one. It's really just an orchestration of where we had started last year and how we're progressing into year 2, where we are now, and then in the year that towards the end of this year, and then the two outer years that remain for the term, towards the end of the term, the focus on execution and acceleration of the work that we're doing, focusing on 3 elements: structure and people. This is internal to the department, the delivery systems that cross-cut between ourselves, the entities, and the broader ecosystem within government and civil society. And of course, the third element is the overall state capability, as I say, which includes our entities. And this is essentially much of what I've just explained. So again, we've designed this as a transition roadmap. The first 2 years is around building that fit for purpose structure. We now have a macro structure, which is a product of the NMOC process. We're finalizing the macro structure towards stabilizing between 2027 and 2030 around building a competitive energy trading market with the requisite transparent grid capacity rules, architecture having matured. We would have substantially made inroads into the universal access. The transformation of the electricity distribution would have been substantially in progress, and we would have been seeing the outcomes of the work we're doing around transmission to build and strengthen and modernize our transmission capability. And then, of course, as I say, underpinning all of that work is the localization effort to ensure that we build affordability safeguards and we provide evidence-led oversight over the work we're doing in the sector, particularly in relation to the entities that account to the department. Chair, you will recall when we presented the APP last year, this time, we had just come into establishment as a department. We had not had an opportunity to properly apply our minds to the strategic plan. So one of the first things we did in this round was to review the strategic plan as the overriding framework and architecture of what guides our work in the department. And that resulted in a reformulation of the strategy, rather the vision and the mission. Our vision now reads that we want to be a transformed and resilient energy system that delivers universal access, affordability, and sustainability while advancing inclusive growth and industrialization anchored by a capable and developmental state. And when we translate that into the mission statement, it reads to lead the transformation of South Africa's energy system through integrated planning, accelerated infrastructure delivery, effective regulation and market design, while strengthening state capability and creating an enabling investment environment. The value system that underpins all of that, all that work is around sustainability, balancing this equation between growth and environmental responsibility, innovation, ensuring that we lead in terms of how we conduct ourselves as a department, firstly, how we revitalize our digital infrastructure and technologies, and then to modernize our delivery models and delivery systems, that we have a public mandate, and so we have a public accountability obligation both to the parliamentary committees, including yourselves, but as a department that we embed the principles of sound ethics, transparency, and compliance with performance discipline, and that we're accountable to the committees of parliament and ultimately to the community. The fourth element is around inclusivity, that in the work that we do, we not singular-minded focused on articulation to the exclusion of public views, and that we create the basis for extended public participation in how we execute our mandate. And then, of course, collaboration is really pulling together the different state and non-state actors, including business, the unions, and society at large, in executing and underpinning the work we do. Chair, I'm not going to go through this slide. I think that DM has spoken to this slide. Just to say to you, we've got a total approved structure currently of 383 posts. Of those, 348 are funded and filled. And then we've got a vacancy rate of 38, and the DM has spoken to the vacancies. Chair, we exist in a global environment. What we're seeing in other parts of the world is that energy now continues to be a significant orchestrator of geopolitical relations in many parts of the world, including currently what we're seeing in the Middle East and the Gulf region, fundamentally about access to energy and energy sources. So it's important that as we design our approach to work, we're cognizant of what this global, regional, and domestic developments are that shapes both the sovereign energy sector, how that interrelates to SADC and the rest of the continent, and then, of course, how that ultimately pans out in the global architecture. So the key issues is around how we navigate the global disruptions in the energy landscape. I just saw a publication, I think it was by JP Morgan, that said South Africa is among the 3 most resilient energy economies. I think it was South Africa followed by China. I just forget what the third one was. But I think the point is that because we've got an energy mix that allows us to flip from one source to the other when there are dips in supplies, when there's disruption in supplies, it gives us a measure of sustainability and resilience in periods of global tension and supply disruptions. The nuclear industry, I think the Deputy Minister has spoken to it. We're doing a lot of work to ensure that we address nuclear both as a source of baseload energy and industrial innovation, but that we also use the nuclear energy space to drive industrialization and to exploit the full cycle nuclear cycle strategy to support energy sovereignty, and the work that we're doing around the SMRs, the small modular reactors. NECSA has just gone out on a call for proposal for technology partners as part of readying us, the country, for deployment of solutions in the nuclear space, focusing on modular reactors. I've spoken to global energy resilience requirements. We're seeing a phenomenal growth in renewable energy. Our own IRP will grow our installed capacity to almost double what we have now, to 105 gigawatts by between 2036 and 2040. And that gives us an opportunity to incrementally and exponentially increase our stock of renewable energy into the mix. In terms of the IRP, renewable capacity is projected to grow by 2.7 times by 2030. Nuclear capacity will grow by 2.5 times by 2050. And so the mix continues to be diversified. And then lastly, the One of the strategic levers for South Africa is as a key regional player. Just last week, we hosted the African Union Specialized Task Team on transport and energy, looking at critical network infrastructure that is a catalyst for the Africa we want to build, embedded and codified in the AU's Agenda 2063. How we exploit our critical mineral endowments, how we support policy to support, rather to stimulate the local manufacturing, clean tech manufacturing, largely codified in the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan, how we advance regional energy integration and cross-border trade across SADC and within and between SADC and other economic communities across the African continent. One of the reasons why Europe is able to move at the pace at which they are on renewables is because they have an integrated and interconnected continental grid. So if the sun happens not to be shining in Spain on a day, they're able to draw energy from other parts of the continent, and they're able to balance systems adequacy requirements across the continent. The African continent has got significant endowment of solar capacity, wind, hydro capacity, but we cannot exploit it to its full potential if we do not build the interconnected systems that allows us to use the energy generated in the DRC, in the Congo, to be transmitted across to the most southern tip of the continent here, to other parts of the continent, including Zambia, if the necessary interconnectors are not designed. Then we look at the external environment, in terms of which we operate. The integrated delivery system requires that we align demand, access, market reform, financing, and transmission infrastructure as a core planning message for the revised strategic plan and the APP. So what we know about demand is that there continues to be coordinated industrial and digital growth, which is driving new and variable electricity demand. The data centers being a very clear example of that. We're also seeing product affordability and universal access for households and SMEs. So the Deputy Minister made reference to the work we're doing around microgrids. It's really changing the way in which we think about how we provide electricity and how we meet demand for electricity. On the supply side, we know that increasingly low-cost renewables will anchor the new build and drive supply, particularly as we decarbonize the energy system. What this does do, however, is that flexibility in the system is now a requirement, and we do need to have flexible capacity and transition fuels to firm renewable energy. What this renewable generation, what this basically means, Chair, is that because of the intermittency of renewable energy, you do need a dispatchable capacity or a firm supply of dispatchable capacity. So if it happens that you have a 3-4 days of no sunshine or of low wind speeds, you should be able to call upon other dispatchable capacity, including battery storage, pump storage schemes, as a backup to the system, and ensure that we do not lose power in those periods of intermittency or drops in renewable generation. Uranium enrichment as a springboard for nuclear generation. I think just to emphasize the point that DM made about our commitment to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the commitment that we make that the enrichment of uranium is only to peaceful use, power systems use, other medical, agricultural use, and other industrial process heating requirements. And because we're a signatory to the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, that we do not enrich beyond peaceful use of uranium. Markets, increasingly interesting how markets are developing. Local supply chains will strengthen resilience and reduce geopolitical risks. We need to manage the persistent market volatility to ensure affordability for consumers as we open up the market to a free trading market. We have to build in the social guardrails to ensure that the market does not absolutely drive prices and that the state does act as the principal orchestrator of the social net that must underpin a competitive market. So whilst we push for a competitive market, increased generation capability and diversified generation capability, the state must always hold, firstly, the ability to protect socially vulnerable communities and users of electricity. And secondly, that the state must always provide backstop. So if we do have a problem of intermittency, of a drop in renewable generation or wind generation, that the state, principally through the state utility being Eskom, is able to provide the backstop and ensure that there is continuity of supply, reliability of supply, and then, of course, the affordability of how we provide and sell the electricity. And then we are hoping to, with the work we're doing around the energy market, to mobilize innovative private financing instruments to scale up investments for increasing renewable penetration. And then continuing on the market development to develop and retain critical grid, digital and market operation skills. We do know that increasingly we are required to produce more and more skills, both on the build program, generation and transmission, but then also critically on the operational side around how we manage the system's operation. And then finally on infrastructure, that we pursue the transmission rollout, the modernization and expansion of the infrastructure, transmission infrastructure program. As the DM also indicated, we are finalizing work for the ITP phase 1, and we will issue ITP phase 2, and at the same time we're ramping up the capability of the NTCSA to deliver at pace and scale the TDP, the Transmission Development Plan. Okay, this slide, I'm not going to speak too much to it. We're simply making the point that we remain a significant player on the continent. I think DM adequately covered the issue of Botswana. The only supply we receive from other African countries is from the Cahora Bassa scheme in Mozambique, and that we sell through back onto Mozal. And that arrangement in any event, it's nearing its end. So that's the only supply we receive from. But there is increasingly work to ensure that we open up and expand the African market. But as matter stands now, we are the most significant consumer on the continent. Just taking a look into the future, the current and future supply of electricity, of course, policy certainty will be a key driver to ensure that we make the kind of facilitate and deliver the kind of investments now that will ensure that into the future we meet the future demand for electricity. The slide, the part of the slide to the left basically sets out the current situation. We since 23 have brought in about 17 gigs of additional capacity in the order of about $30 billion. Public investments mobilized in that period, that's about in the order of about between 75 and 80 billion rands worth of investment attracted through the work we're doing around the renewable energy program. And we will invest an unprecedented level in generation expansion. The DM made the point, 2.2 trillion rand investment pipeline that's codified in the IRP. You'll see on the scale to the right, the increments of how we will grow by about 5 times the current rate of renewable installation, about 10.3 we were at about 10.3 in 2025, and we'll grow that about 5-fold in the period 2031 to 2042, up to about 58.6 gigawatts of renewable installation. Gas to power similarly sitting at a baseline of about 3.8, and we'll grow that gas supply, gas capacity to about 12.3 gigawatts in the period 2030 to 2042. Actually, again, this slide I've I think just setting out the systems pressure, but pressure on the one end, but opportunity on the other. 1.3 gigawatts of demand will be driven by digital infrastructure, including the data centers. There's a 400,000 access requirement approximately annually on grid, 400,000 per annum on grid and off grid connections to enable us to eat at the 1.6 billion access gap by 2030. As I said, the 30,000 gigawatts of renewable pipeline between now and 2028. And then we have to build in the next 8 to 10 years, 14,500 kilometers of new transmission infrastructure, which includes transformer capacity as required by the TDP. I think this slide, we've covered most of it, so I'll pass on this slide. The department exists in a legal, we are a creation of statutes. So what we've outlined here is the key regulatory instruments that guide our work, principally the Energy Act, the National Energy Act 34 of 2008, the Electricity Regulations Act, and that act having recently been amended, and now the Electricity Regulation Act 38 of 2004. And then, of course, there is the nuclear space that has its own suite of regulation, the Nuclear Act, the Nuclear Regulator Act, and the Nwadi Act, guiding both the disposal of nuclear and the handling of nuclear energy, the Gas Act, and then, of course, the other pieces of legislation, including the Local Government Suite, the Local Government Systems Act, the Infrastructure Development Act, the Occupational Health and Safety, and then other pieces of legislation that impacts the work of the department. I was meant to hand over to DDG Gekana, I think, at this point. DDG, are you ready to take over? Can I conclude this slide and then you'll come in perhaps as the next slide? So if you can ready yourself. Apologies for that, Chair. We undertook a SWOT analysis and we set out strengths, weaknesses, threats and opportunities. Under strengths, we have dedicated mandate and institutional reforms. We've the unified mandate brings policy planning regulation into a one window horizon. As you know, previously we were straddling between the DPE, the DMRE, and towards the latter end of the sixth administration, what was then the Ministry in the Presidency for Electricity. We have within the energy family, this now includes the entities, built significant technical expertise. I don't think there's any renewable company in this country that has delivered any renewable projects with anyone that hasn't trained or worked for Eskom. And, you know, that continues to be a huge strength. We possess deep knowledge pools and expertise, both in policy and regulation, in energy systems management and renewable technology. And nuclear technology, and increasingly in energy markets and infrastructure planning and delivery. We have developed the mechanics for very strong cross-functional collaboration and stakeholder engagements. This cuts across government departments, sister departments, including the National Treasury, the DFFE, the DMPR, municipalities, but also with other social partners outside. We're integrating at the functional level the work of the IRP, or aligning rather other elements of the energy system, including transmission development plan, the SARAM, which is the industrialization plan, and the JET investment plan into the IRP 2025 investment pipeline. Of course, like any other institutions, we have expressed our own weaknesses, and weaknesses by their nature are internal, and we've got the ability to correct these, path correct for these. The first is the financial constraints, given the limitations on the public sector, fiscal metrics, the skills and capacity challenges. Although we've got significant capacity, those largely is an aging cohort of skills. So we have to think about skills not only in terms of the present, not only in terms of the current technology choices, but we have to think about skills for the future, and we have to think about skills in terms of future technology enablement. And then we have to consolidate and strengthen our processes and systems internally. We are going through a process of organizational change. We have to guide that through a change management process. We have got a 10.8% vacancy rate, and we continue to battle to attract highly technical skills within the public sector. And this is work that we need to be thinking creatively and differently around how we solve for. And then we have to move from an environment of reactive, as we saw in our reaction to the load shedding crisis, reacting to the crisis, to proactive responses. So are we building that kind of resilience and capability to respond to crisis or disruptions in supply chains as and when they occur, because in the real world they do certainly occur. Threats, the geopolitical instability, I've spoken to this, I'll not go through that again. Climate risks, very apparent what these are. Debt and fiscal instability, rising national debt limits inhibits the ability of particularly Eskom, NECSA, to go into the debt capital market, because often the markets require sovereign guarantees. Given where the state's fiscal metric sits, the National Treasury is not providing any sovereign guarantees, or is hesitant to provide sovereign guarantees, because what they constitute is a contingent liability, which impacts on the state's overall ability to raise capital and to execute the funding requirements for the state. We continue to be a victim. I'm using the word victim very loosely. It's not normal that you call the state a victim, but organized crime and vandalism continues to have a massive negative impact on the work of the state, both from the impact it has on the supply, reliability of services. Each time you have a cable theft incident, communities are inconvenienced, often for days at a time. There's a cost that's attached to that. And then, of course, there's crime and organized crime in the context of malfeasance and corruption. And then the state-owned entities' legacy, or I should say not legacy, but recent history of poor governance, weak operational performance, which has made delivery in the public space very difficult, very cost-intensive, at high costs of capital, and also puts the public sector in a state of disrepute. The ability of the state is constantly questioned because of this kind of history. I think what Eskom has proven is that it's perfectly possible to turn around and to have state utilities work like any well-functioning public business listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The turnaround of Eskom, I think, is something that academics and scholars of public management needs to think about and write about, because I think there are lessons that the country must pull out of the Eskom experience. And finally, in terms of what this means for opportunities, the energy expansion program gives us an opportunity to expand our energy capability. We have an opportunity to synthesize regulation across the continent so that we facilitate the trade of energy across the continent under a common regulatory environment. The private sector, although capital remains to be a constraint, if we clean up the balance sheet, if we de-risk some of the balance sheet issues within the public sector, we do open up opportunities for private capital and PPP models. I think the simple point to make here is that the state's ability to finance the infrastructure requirements is constrained, so we do have to draw on private capital to assist the state to do this. The simple truth is that the assets that we build and develop out of this infrastructure investments will always be retained in the state realm. So at no point will key public assets be owned perpetually by private entities. Of course, in the nature of PPPs, for the concession period, you'll argue that it's held in private hands, but we say that ultimately those assets belong to the country, because when those concession periods end, the assets that are developed reverts to state ownership. And then, of course, there's a huge opportunity that sits in the climate financing space. And it's something that we're increasingly looking at, including in terms of how we fund the Universal Access Program. Dinesh Gekana, are you ready to take over from this point?
Yes, I am. Thank you, DG.
Yeah, apologies. I went into a couple of your slides. So I'm going to hand over to Dinesh Gekana. And then once he's concluded with his part, the CFO will deal with the financial part. And then for the rest of it is the detail of each of the branches, each of the DDGs will take us through in that space. DDG, over to you.
Thank you, DG, and Honorable Chairperson, thanks for the opportunity, and all the members. I think also in the interest of time, I'm going to run through the presentation a little bit fast, but also to save the bandwidth, I'm going to switch off my video, but you can see now this is not AI, it's me in person, Thabo Gekana. So I'm going to start my presentation by first making references to Minister's message. The Minister always says energy transformation must be developmental. And he further says it must secure supply, reduce exclusion, localize value chains, and most importantly, protect households and industry from unaffordable electricity. Honorable members, as the DG has presented the SWOTs. So the SWOT analysis, of course, leads directly to our 5 strategic priorities, of which I will just share in the next few seconds. The first one, the first priority area, I think the DM has touched on it. We are bold and we have a big ambition to achieve universal access to electricity by 2030. As things stands in South Africa, we have managed to have electricity penetration of 94% access to electricity. So we're left with, I would say mathematically, we can't do 100%, but our target is to increase the 94% penetration rate to at least 97%. So that 97% translates to what we'll call 1.6 million backlog. And the DM has made reference to what we have themed as our Mission 1.6. The Mission 1.6 actually is derived from the famous Mission 300, which is supported by World Bank. Mission 300 aims to connect 300 million people in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030. So we're pretty much aligned with the continental vision, and our vision is Mission 1.6 million. And through the leadership of the Minister and the DM, we strongly believe that we will indeed connect our people by 2030, the 1.6 million household. So just to touch again swiftly on the priority areas, we want to attain sovereign and regional energy security. We want to drive industrialization and lead innovation. And I'm also proud to say that the DM is actually leading this aspect of the priority area through SAREM, the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan. In terms of transformation, again, we want to transform the energy demographics. We want to make sure that we have we increase participation, Black participation in the energy industry, most importantly, women participation and people with disabilities. We want to see them playing a big role in the sector. And lastly, we want to assert South Africa's continental and global leadership within the sector. So the next slide, please, DG. Unfortunately, I don't have the controlling rights. Thank you so much, DG. I think you touched a little bit on this slide. we are advocating the concept of energy quadrilemma. What do we mean? What do I mean by this? The quadrilemma is at the heart of our revised strategic posture. I must say that this responds to South Africa's socio-economic fault lines by insisting that the department, of course, on our own, we will not be able to solve one dimension of the energy policy while we're ignoring the others. So we are saying all these four factors are intertwined, and if indeed we want to resolve the energy challenges that our country is facing, we must address all these four factors equally. Move swiftly to the next slide, DG, please. And once more, as we do that, the minister has been explicit about this in Parliament, that electricity affordability is central to our social equity and economic stability. Having said that, I'll just take you through a few minutes our strategic outcomes. The outcomes, you'll see that we have framed the outcomes in five. We have 5 outcomes, and these outcomes, I must say, members, that they are linked to all the overall government priorities. They are linked to the MTDP. The priorities are also linked to, of course, ministers' compact with the president, ministerial priorities, and lastly, the outcomes are linked to Operation Vulindlela 2.0. You will see that outcome 1 talks to improved energy security and the just energy transition imperatives. Outcome 2, of course, we want an enabling environment for investment. Outcome 3, of course, we want an ethical, capable, and professional public sector. Outcome 4, we want moving with digital technology. So we see digital transformation as key to achieving our goals. Outcome 5, of course, we're in support of gender mainstreaming. We want to see an increase of youth participation in the sector. And also, lastly, I want to see participation of people with disabilities. Can we move to the next slide, please? So the next slide simply is outlining how we're going to be measuring our performance, looking at the outcomes and linking the outcomes, of course, with the APP as a start. We are opening this with an impact statement. The statement reads as follows. We want, of course, an integrated, well-regulated and investment-friendly energy system that ensures security of supply, drive industrialization, advance the just energy transition, and position South Africa as a regional and global leader in sustainable energy. So with that said, let me also move swiftly to the next slide so that I can unpack a little bit on the outcomes. The first outcome, we talk about improved energy security and the just energy transition. Outcome 1 aims to deliver. It's actually at the heart of our APP, of which we will unpack in the following slide. In year 2, you'll see, as I will be unpacking, we'll talk about not year 2, sorry. We talk about our flagship project, achieving universal access to electricity. The APP commits to approving the universal access funding roadmap, of which we have partnered with the African Development Bank, the DBSA, to actually develop a funding model looking at the target of achieving eradicating the 1.6 backlog in electrification. We have presented our repurposing of INEP strategy to Cabinet last year, August. Cabinet has endorsed our action plan. What we are left with now, knowing that the quantity that we need to close, which is the backlog of 1.6, what remains now, we have also determined the funding requirement. As things stand, we're looking at the funding requirement in the region of 75 billion rand, and we know that we have fiscal pressure now. What we have embarked on in partnership with the DBSA and the African Development Bank is to come up or develop a funding model where we will see private sector participation assisting us to close that funding gap of 75 billion. So we are now busy with the development of that funding model, of which once we have developed and we aim to conclude this work towards end of August, we will now go back to cabinet and present the case, the business case, to say that now we are clear in terms of the funding model that we will embark on towards our primary objective of closing the 1.6 million household gap by 2030. So that is essentially what is also embedded in our APP. So we will establish the INEP PMO within the DBSA, and coupled with that, we will continue with our normal monitoring and supporting 200 municipalities that we're currently doing through the grant funding, through the DORA framework. We will be supporting 200 municipalities. We'll also be supporting 200 municipalities where Eskom is actually the lead supplier. And lastly, with our effort to promote decentralized energy solutions, we'll be rolling out 15,000, we'll be supporting 15,000 indigent households by rolling out what we call solar home systems, just to ensure that they are also not being left behind. They are provided with a reliable source of energy, using, of course, the sun as the source. The second one, you will see that as we diversify our supply, we will be increasing our effort through the IPP office in terms of our REAP program. We will be issuing what we call now mega big windows in the drive to secure this, the security of supply of electricity. At the same time, we are now targeting a big announcement by the minister in the next few weeks, where the minister will be gazetting and of course presenting the Section 34 determination that we have been working hard to introduce, aligned with the IRP 2025. DG, can you move swiftly? Or maybe the last point that I also want to make, if you look at towards the right, on the right side, this is how we're going to be tracking our efforts. 2027 lens will be tracking weather access, the procurement, the grid milestones, and this, of course, this will be tracked by the committee, whether we have sequenced everything and whether we are in alignment with our goals. DG, next slide, please. In the next slide, I'll just summarize outcome 2. Outcome 2 will be testing whether the department has indeed will be able to reduce the uncertainty and creating bankable conditions for the new capacity, new infrastructure, and again, industrial investment. You will see that in terms of the pricing and market rules, will be approaching cabinet, and this will be linked with the work that will be done by our policy team. And I think in the next slide we will be having DDG Kubeshni just presenting the work that we'll be doing in the policy front. We know that we'll be establishing the transmission system operator. I don't want to steal her show. She will be explaining more what outcome 2 entails. Moving swiftly to the next slide, please, DG. In the outcome 3, we'll be looking again at addressing an ethical, capable, and professional public services. You will see that in terms of the lens, we'll be watching whether the structure approval, and again, as DG has alluded, this year we'll be ensuring that we have what we call fit for purpose structure, and we'll be monitoring that closely. We'll be filling all the vacant positions to ensure that we have enough warm bodies to drive the implementation of our strategy. Once more, moving swiftly, DG, to the next slide. This is just a summary of outcome 4 and 5, and I know in the next few slides, my colleagues, DDG Kubeshni, DDG Mbambo, will be talking at depth the outcomes 4 and 5. Then I think from here, DG, again with the chairperson, with your permission, I will allow maybe call upon the CFO to take us through the budget breakdown. Thank you, DG. Thank you, Chairperson.
Good morning. I'm just going to put my video on so you can see me. Please just confirm if you can see me. Okay. I'm going to be taking you through the budget vote for the next financial year. Let me just switch that off. In terms of what we have been allocated for the next financial year, we have been allocated 6.06 billion to carry out the work that we have determined that we will be doing next year. And also just want to highlight that in terms of that allocation, if we do a comparison to what we were allocated in the previous financial year, we actually have a reduction in our baseline of 9.2%. And if you just look at the slides there, program 3 is one of the areas that was hardest hit by the reduction. But then all the other programs, they experienced some increases, obviously reprioritization from program 3 in certain respects to sort of augment the other programs so that we can then be able to achieve the objectives that we've set out under each and every program. Now, in terms of the share of the entire 6 billion, how that has been distributed across the different programs, you see Energy Pro programs and projects take the largest part of that budget, and that is basically where the municipal transfers are sitting in terms of INEP and EEDSM. They are sitting in the energy programs and projects, so a majority of that money actually is going to flow out to the municipalities. So, but 66.7% of that budget is going to energy programs and projects. And then followed by the nuclear energy regulation management, which takes a share of 26.8%, that amounts to 1.6 billion. And included in that is also transfers that will also be making to NECSA. And the DG has already spoken about some key programs that we're doing there with NECSA, and DDG Mbambo will also just add a little bit more later on in the slides in terms of what we've earmarked those funds for that we are transferring also to NECSA. And under administration, we've allocated 4.6% of the budget. That amounts to 281. I'll unpack that later as I look at the administration program in terms of the key deliverables that we have actually earmarked for that financial year. And then energy planning and policy development. DDG Kekana has already touched on a number of policy developments that we are embarking on, just looking at exactly where the market is going and also the new developments within the sector. But that has been allocated 1.1% in terms of our budget. And then the state-owned entities, this is where we're overseeing all the different SOEs that the department has and that are reporting directly to the department. So we're providing some oversight. So there's a 0.7% allocation in terms of this program to oversee the entities. Next slide. Yes, so in terms of this particular slide, especially this and I think the next two, what we've tried to also do at a high level is just to indicate exactly the key deliverables and how much we have earmarked that it will cost. Obviously, there is other activities that we are embarking on, but in terms of the high level of what we would like to achieve under each and every program, we've sort of done that mapping to say for the 4.6%, for example, under administration, these are the key deliverables. I think we've spoken about building a fit for purpose structure. The DM also spoken about the type of industry we're working in, and that we are also not wanting a same old in terms of our structure, but we want to have an agile and responsive structure that will be adequately capacitated. And then in terms of number 2, we're looking at obviously a high performance department roadmap. So the structure is one thing, but also we need to resource it, capacitate it, make sure that it's capable of delivering, and there will be a roadmap that is delivering so that we can also see where we need to go to and the milestones we need to achieve so that we can finally achieve this high performance department that we want to see. The other key issue is the ICT infrastructure. We are working with a very outdated ICT infrastructure. I know we know about the risks that we are facing as not only public sector, but I think think it's worldwide now, of cybersecurity. So our ICT infrastructure needs an entire overhaul and a refresh. And that's one of the key projects that we're going to be undertaking. We obviously cannot achieve the level of high performance that we want if ever we do not have the tools and also the resources for us to be able to do exactly that. The vacancies, we're going to be filling those vacancies. I think the DM already touched on the processes that have been undertaken, especially in terms of trying to fill some of the key vacancies and some of the challenges there, but we are still going to be embarking on that. And obviously, once we have pinned down the structure for the department, then we will be looking to fill all those vacancies so that we can bring the adequate skills and resources that we need into the department. And then under Program 2, Energy Planning and Policy, I've already indicated they take 1.1% of the vote. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because DDG Bongwanding is going to just touch on that. But then we are looking at a number of policy documents that we're going to be releasing, and we've allocated 16.8 million to this particular program. Next slide. All right, and then in terms of Program 3, I've touched on it briefly, but this is where we are doing the electrification, also looking at issues like the procurement that normally is done through the IPP. So we have allocated, like I said, 4.04 billion for that, and some of that money, like I've indicated, is going to flow through to the municipalities, and we will just be keeping an eye on that. And DDG Gekana will come back and then also just touch on the details in terms of what this money is going to be used for. But it's already touched on the work that we're doing to try and ensure that also we providing energy to the indigent households, so that we do not leave anybody behind. The work around energy efficiency, because that's critical. The money you don't spend is actually quite valuable. So yeah, so he'll come in and also just touch on that, but there's about 4 billion that we are earmarking towards that work. Next slide. All right. And then in terms of Program 4, that is nuclear, 1.6 billion as indicated. And there is a nuclear industrialization roadmap. DDG Mbambo will provide more detail on that, and also the deployment of that 5.2 megawatt that is also planned. In terms of Program 5, SOE oversight, obviously there's some oversight that we're providing. There is obviously work that we're doing also around Eskom and the market, the development of the market that we're talking about earlier, and then the DDG Bongwanding will come back on that. But there's 44.5 million that we are earmarking towards that. And overall, like I said, it's about 0.7% of the vote. Next slide. Yeah. So here we're just breaking down the allocation in terms of the different economic classifications, in terms of where, how much of what is going towards what. In terms of compensation of employees, if you can see, we're spending about 387.7 million. That's what we are budgeting for, and that is 6.4%. Obviously, we are still working on the structure, so this is looking at currently what we have in terms of the positions that we identified on the structure. But as soon as that fit for purpose structure has been developed, then it will be costed accordingly, so we can see exactly how much actually we need in terms of compensation of employees to fund that particular structure. But currently this is the amount that we are working with. In terms of goods and services, we've allocated 518 million towards that. That is 8.5% of the budget allocation. Transfers and subsidies, 5.15 billion as indicated. There's a lot of money that is going to be transferred. DORA grants that are going to the municipalities, and we also have transfers that are also going to our entities that are reporting to the department. So that is 85.0% of the allocation. And in terms of capital assets, we're looking at 4.9 million that has been allocated so that we can, amongst others, as I've indicated, look at our ICT infrastructure and some other assets that we need within the department. But overall, if you look at the budget in terms of the spend, we actually are going to be spending around 3.4 billion, which is money that is going towards infrastructure transfers. So we just wanted to highlight that there's quite a lot of money that is actually going into infrastructure within our budget. There's 1.9 billion that will be going directly to the municipalities, and then we also have a grant that will be going to Eskom, also around 1.5 billion in the current financial year. I believe this is my last slide on the finances. Maybe we can just move on to the administration program, DDG.
Just a second, therefore. Okay, there you go.
All right. In terms of the administration program, this is basically, I would say, I'd say the backbone, but maybe someone might differ with me, but I'd say the backbone. But this is where basically it's a foundation of everything. So it's where the internal controls of the department are. And then what we are trying to achieve with this particular program is to make sure that there's strategic leadership, there's management, and then the support services from where obviously all the other programs will then be able to push and then implement the mandate. So we have the ministry, which is then the executive and the strategic arm of the department. This is where the minister and the deputy ministers sub-programs are. And then the departmental management. So this is basically where we are looking at areas like risk measurement and evaluation, communications and ICT. And then there's internal audit looking at the financial governance, compliance assurance. So basically giving assurance that internal controls are in place and they're effective, and that if ever we pick up any issues, that they are corrected timelessly. In terms of the finance, obviously we're making sure that everything is budgeted for. We don't have any irregular expenditure unauthorized or fruitless and wasteful. Just keeping our handle on that, and then also looking at SCM, so that we can comply and make sure that we stay away from irregular expenditure. And then corporate services is looking at our human capital, our legal, ICT, and so forth. And then obviously the official accommodation for where we operate from as the department. Next slide. Yes, so I think I've already touched on the key deliverables that we are going to be looking at as under the administration. But overall, if you look at the further breakdown in terms of the different sub-programs, we have ministry, which is going to be getting 45.9 million of that administrative budget. Departmental management gets 47.6, internal audit 10.2, finance 37 million, corporate services, which is where our human capital, as you've seen, is, and legal, there's 99.4, and then office accommodation about 41 million that we will be spending on those different sub-programs for the year. I'll leave it here, and then I'll hand over to DDG Bangwandini. Thank you so much.
Not sure if you can see me, but good morning to the Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the committee, Deputy Minister and ADG. I'll be taking you through Program 2 as well as Program 5. In Program 2, we focus on policy development and energy planning, and the budget here is 68 million rand. The purpose of this program is to formulate, maintain, and implement energy policies, as well as encourage investment, improve energy security of supply, and create planning and reform architecture. We have 3 sub-programs in this branch: nuclear, electricity, and gas policy, that provides the function of policy and legislative frameworks for nuclear, electricity, and the gas sectors, including policy review and impact monitoring. The next sub-program is energy planning, and this function produces evidence-based energy plans. They conduct modeling, forecasting, and the actual preparation of the national plans. And then the third sub-program focuses on international relations, international collaborations, and transformation. Next slide, please. So the branch will be producing the following outputs. The one is to revise the electricity pricing policy and take that to cabinet. So to continue with the public consultations in Q1 and then proceed to NEDLAC and then submit to cabinet in Q4. The next one output is to produce the transmission system operator bill, to develop the business case, draft the bill, and then proceed to cabinet submission. The third is the integrated energy plan, and to produce this plan, the branch will undertake input data consultations, produce the model report, scenario report, and then take this through consultation and then through to the cabinet processes. And then the fourth one is to develop the gas master plan. This, we had done previously, but it had to be updated with the IRP. And so we had to revise the data and the modeling, and then take that to NEDLAC, public consultation, to the processes, and then cabinet submission. Next slide, and then here we're just allocating the funds. So of the 68 million, energy planning will be allocated 39.4 million, and then the nuclear, electricity, and gas policy will receive 28.7 million. Thanks. Next slide. Okay, and then I'm going to take you through Program 5. And Program 5 deals with entities oversight, which sees an allocation of 44.5 million rand. And the purpose of this program is to provide and enforce the governance, legal assurance, financial and non-financial performance of the state-owned entities. This is an important function because the state-owned entities utilize public funds, deliver essential services, and as well as contribute to economic development. So in this sub-program, we have three sub-programs. Energy resources, which is the technical team that conducts the shareholder oversight. They also do the strategic oversight. And then the state-owned companies financial assurance and investment sub-program, which is essentially financial oversight, investment analysis, and sustainability assessments for the state-owned entities. And then the third sub-program, which is essentially the legal risk and governance sub-program. And this function looks at governance, legal risk management support, as well as shareholder management and compliance oversight. Next slide. This program will be conducting strategic oversight and will be putting together two shareholder compacts, as well as strategic intent statements for the Schedule 2 companies, Eskom and Nexa. And then as part of the routine performance oversight on all the state-owned entities, there are 6 state-owned entities. So every quarter we would perform quarterly assessments on the performance of these state-owned entities. So that culminates into 24 quarterly reports across those 6 state-owned entities. And then For Eskom, we will have further lenses and zoom into the operations, as well as we will further look into the audit recovery to ensure that they have an unqualified audit. So 2 reports will be produced on the audit recovery, and then 2 reports on the restructuring process as we restructure Eskom into 4 subsidiaries, which would be separate entities for transmission, distribution, and generation. And now for the renewables, we are creating the Eskom Green subsidiary. So the progress and monitoring of that will culminate into 2 reports. And then every quarter, we monitor the generation recovery plan and improve the performance of generation performance. Next slide, please. So the technical team, the energy resources team, will have an allocation of 24.4 million rand, and then the financial assurance investment team 5.1 million rand, and then an allocation for the risk, legal, and governance 15.1 million rand. Next slide, please. Okay, I think we go back to program 3, and I'll hand over to DDG Kekane.
Chair, apologies. DDG Bangwane was responsible for 2 programs. That's why she did 2 and 5. DDG Kekane will deal with 3, and then we'll conclude with DDG Bambo on nuclear with program 4. DDG Kekane?
Thanks, sir. If you could move, is it 1 slide back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, DG, and once more, thank you, Chairperson, and the committee members. So yeah, I'm here to.
DDG Kekane, just for a second. Acting DG, do you think we would be done by 10 to 12? Members still have to engage with the presentation, and we should be done by 1. And we're supposed to have finished by 11:15.
Apologies for that. We should be done by.
Can we push that at least by 11:50 we're done?
Yes. DDG?
Yeah.
Maybe just 5 minutes with yours, and then 5 minutes for DDG. Please go ahead.
Exactly 5 minutes. The counting begins. So program 3, I will say, as per the name, and its purpose is to manage, coordinate, and of course monitor programs. You will see that the program actually has the large chunk of the budget, which is sitting as at approximately 67% of the vote, which translates to 4 billion rands in allocation. You will see the sub-programs as presented. We cover energy programs management, the famous INEP. We also have Program Management Office, which deals with, of course, special programs or projects addressing issues within the gender mainstreaming, youth, and also people with disabilities. We also have electricity infrastructure and industry transformation, and clean energy lastly. So if we can move again quickly to the next slide, just to look at the budget breakdown. DG, the next one. Okay, before the budget, sorry, these are just the targets. I think I'm running too fast. One slide. Yes, these are our key focus areas in terms of the targets. We have this 4 targets as presented. The most famous one is our flagship project, as I've indicated before, achieving universal access of electricity. And we also want to do that with, of course, partnership with the DBSA. We're working tightly for the establishment of the PMO. We target to conclude this process of establishing the PMO within the DBSA in this quarter 1. And after that, we will intensify our delivery efforts. We'll be supporting 200 municipalities. You'll see. We'll also, of course, support those municipalities where Eskom is the primary supplier. From energy efficiency point of view, we know that energy efficiency is famously known as the first fuel. So energy efficiency remains an important focus area for ourselves. We aim to approve 10 additional energy efficiency demand-side management program, business cases, and their respective funding models. We also aim to submit what we call post-2015 National Energy Efficiency strategy to Cabinet. We aim to do this, I think, towards Q3 and Q4. We're also going to intensify our efforts, as I've indicated, through the IPP office, through our famous renewable energy programs, with the view of our aim is to go to introduce what we call mega bid windows. We already have 28,000 megawatts or 28 gigs in the pipeline, comprising of new generation capacity in the form of solar, in the form of wind, in the form of gas, and battery energy storage. And lastly, we still have our famous grid expansion program through the ITP. We still also intensifying our efforts to close the 1,164 kilometers of infrastructure of transmission pipelines. Next slide, please. In terms of the breakdown, I think the slides will talk about the budget breakdown, just to see the linkages of various sub-programs. Okay, there we go. So we have a 4 billion allocation. We'll see that INEP takes the large chunk. INEP, of course, it's all about the transfers to the municipalities and ESCOM, which is followed by the clean energy. And the clean energy, we have the energy efficiency demand-side management program. And we're also not forgetting our special programs where we are addressing the issues of transformation, gender mainstreaming, youth programs. You'll see the budget is sitting at 25 million, which is the third largest. And lastly, we have the energy infrastructure in support of our IPP office. So next slide, please.
Yeah, let's. I think the next one is DG Mbambo.
Okay, thank you, DG.
Thanks, DG Mbambo. 5 minutes, please. DG Mbambo, are you with us? Okay, so maybe let me go through it. So I see it's on the line. I think you may just be held up.
Yes, sir.
DG? Oh, yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, DG. And good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members and their colleagues. I'll take you through the Program 4, which is the Nuclear Energy Regulation and Management. There's already been alluded to. So this program is allocated 1.6 billion, which is 26.8 of the budget vote. And the main purpose of the program is to oversee and regulate the nuclear industry, control nuclear material and nuclear-related material and equipment in line with our international obligations, and develop the national policy and legislative basis for peaceful nuclear uses. Then in terms of the sub-program, so this branch has got 3 sub-programs comprising of the nuclear energy management, and whose function is to provide program management, coordination, oversight, including international cooperation and peaceful use of nuclear. And then the next sub-program would then be the nuclear safety and technology, whose function is to implement the nuclear energy policy, provide nuclear safety, nuclear liability, emergency management, and oversight of transfer to NECSA, National Nuclear Regulator, and NRADI. The next one will then be the nuclear non-proliferation and radiation security, whose function is mainly to ensure compliance with nuclear non-proliferation and radiation security and safeguards obligation to ensure that nuclear business is conducted for peaceful purposes in South Africa. Next slide. Then in terms of the next slide, merely demonstrate the annual targets. So the main targets that will be implemented is the industrialization roadmap. We'll develop the nuclear industrialization roadmap and determine the merits of the 10 gigawatts of nuclear generation capacity in line with the policy position in the integrated resource plan. And also then we will be reviewing and approving the nuclear new build deployment plan and progress the Section 34 determination through the ministerial and the NERSA processes. And obviously the next target would then to ensure that we oversee and produce reports for the monitoring of the multipurpose reactor to ensure that we are able to build the next nuclear research reactor to complement the Safari research reactor, as the Deputy Minister has already alluded to. Then the next slide would then deal with mainly the allocation of the budget within the 3 sub-programs. As we've alluded to, you see that the nuclear safety and technology is allocated 1.6 billion, while nuclear non-proliferation and radiation security is allocated 17.4 million, and the nuclear energy management 12 million. I think that's the end of the presentation. I would like to thank you very much and hand over to you, ADG.
Chair, that's the programs. There are 3 slides, Chair. I'm not going to go through them. Maybe just to conclude to say, obviously, what we've as part of what we've done with the program is to risk it. We've identified key risk areas at the program level and at the detailed branch level, and for each of those we've designed mitigation measures. Chairperson, my sincerest apologies for overshooting the time, but that is the sum of our presentation to the committee. Thank you. Back to you, Chair. DM.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm sorry that we ran over, but as you can see, we've done a comprehensive analysis of the department and where we're going. So hopefully that gives everybody some insight, and hopefully we haven't cut short their opportunity to ask questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, DM. Thank you, DG and the team. One of the reasons I did not stop the team was precisely because you would remember the first time we met, you were still trying to, I forgot the correct word, but you're still trying to divorce yourself as a department to be a standalone department. And I think this is the first time that we're engaging as a fully fledged standalone department without any reference towards Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources. And that's why I allowed you to go into detail, so that at least when we meet again, we're all familiar with this department as a standalone department, fully functioning department. And we also take counsel of the fact that you are quite happy with the amount of work that the acting DG is putting into the department in order for it to fluidly be able to discharge its responsibilities. Ordinarily, DM, we have changed how we do things as a committee so that we maximize on the engagement. We would ordinarily allow members, each member, a 10-minute session with the political head on the question and answer session. So we don't take all members, they ask questions and then you respond at once. We normally have one member who will have engagement with you on issues and then move to the next member. But due to time limitation, we'll just ask members to raise their hands, all of them who wants to engage, whether it's a question, whether it's a comment. And then, like we normally do, we'll just take all questions and comments at once, and then you'll come back, respond, and the team will make additions, and then we'll allow you to go and do other responsibilities that are confronting the department, so that we do not hold you too long into the meeting as well, seeing that we have almost an hour to go. So, honorable members, I don't know what's happening now. I can't see all the participants. Honorable members, then hands are already up. We'll start with Honorable Farmer, Honorable Nodata, Honorable Van den Berg, Honorable Dlamini, Honorable Pina, Honorable Boshoff. Let me go down and see. Okay.
I just lost.
Oh, you can start, Honorable Boshoff. You're already on the platform. You can start. It's not a problem. You can start.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to the DM and to the DDG. Thank you very much for the presentation. I only have one question, and it relates to the Eskom debt. Doing a bit of research, I see we've reached approximately 116 billion debt, and it is projected to escalate significantly. And this whilst the distribution agency agreements remain in a pilot phase with no standard national implementation. Could you please give me what immediate time-bound interventions the department will implement to ensure that residents are no longer penalized through escalating tariffs and unreliable electricity supply as a result of municipal failure to collect and pay for electricity? I can just take you to my little town of Tabacheru. We are constantly without electricity, and they say they have to institute load reduction because of them not honoring their agreement to repay the outstanding debt, which now stands at around 1.8 billion. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Boshoff. I hope the team managed to pick up the question. Let's go to Honorable Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hope I'm audible.
You are.
Chairperson, I'm really disappointed in these officials who are prepared to steal time from us, from our time to engage on these issues, because we are not, it is our job, it's our work to represent the people who send us here. And for them to feel free to just take the time of the people as if they are this high and mighty officials, it's really not on. And I had a number of questions, but I cannot ask them all now because I don't have enough time. I should also not ask this one, but let me do it. Honorable DM, why would you praise the acting DG and the CFO this much, whilst you're not prepared to appoint them in those positions? You illustrate, or you are selling us a narrative whereby you want a DG who can do the job, yet you praise this acting one, but you're not happy to appoint them. For how long are you going to hold the people hostage without a permanent DG? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Farmer. We'll take Honorable Nodata.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, honorable members, DM, and everyone. Chair, I've had a few questions. The other one will be just a comment. Chair, in the first place, I just want to comment about the 38 funded vacant posts. Just want to know when are these posts are going to be advertised, because we are not waiting for anything. They are funded. We have a lot of people who are unemployed outside who may have the qualifications, but we have vacant posts who are funded. When are they going to be advertised and filled? Chair, the other question for me, which is just a general question that affects people. We have ended load shedding. We have been priding ourselves about the fact that we have ended load shedding. Yes, we have this huge money that we need to recover to have things running smooth. But what about this load reduction that affects people so much? It affects people much than load shedding. I will make an example, Chairperson, with a township known as Madadeni in Newcastle in KZN. In that township, Chair, there's Section 6 and Section 7 and portion of Section 3, where there's load reduction of 8 hours a day. 4 hours AM, 4 hours PM. What is it that we are doing? Because if this load reduction is saving us something, it should rotate, not stick on the same people. Same thing that happens in my area in the Eastern Cape, in Mount Frere. Electricity leaves every time there. If I go on a weekend, I know maybe one day I will have electricity. The other days there is no electricity. I don't know what is happening. Chair, if I can go now, I'm about to finish. Just to ask about the areas where municipality would put infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, and then stays for long years without Eskom connecting them to electricity. And then whenever you engage with the municipalities, they would say, we have done our work, but Eskom is not coming to put on electricity. What happens with that, Chairperson? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Notata. We'll now take Honorable van den Berg.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start with saying that I think we have received a very well prepared presentation, and I show my appreciation for that. But I have a couple of questions which I would like to ask. The first one is, where do we stand on the unbundling of Eskom? Given the fact that your department is now functioning in a new scenario, I would like to know if it is still the best option, and how do you as a department see this? Then the question on local government debt. Also, I would like to know from your department, what do you see as a lasting solution to this problem, so that we as Parliament can support you if that is a feasible answer. Then a comment on the incompetence of NERSA to play a role due to its separation from reality as to the proper processes, especially in assisting with cost of supply studies at local governments. Is there any plans around that? Will we be able to bring real cost accounting into the equation when we determined these electric costs per unit? And then, where do we stand on fruitless and wasteful expenditure? You have not mentioned it in your presentation, but it seems that there are still big problems haunting us with large amounts of fruitless and wasteful spending. And then obviously we need to know how you are dealing with the overpriced products problem that Eskom has had in the past. And I recall that we called for a clearer current reporting system on the price of a light bulb and a broom. What have you done to improve this process? Then I also want to refer to the solar water heater program. You have got approximately 11,000 uninstalled units standing in storage, to the amount of just over 3 million. Is it not possible to make these units available free to installers, and then the installers to be paid by the users, so that the units can be installed rather than sitting in warehouses? Now, I know that the argument would probably ultimately be that those geysers are meant for people that are unprivileged or less privileged, but isn't it the object of the project for Eskom to save electricity and spikes? And does it not make sense to get these geysers out to the larger users, or shall we say the more affluent users, just to get to the aim of the project and to get the geysers out there? Then, just on a lighter note, in your presentation, you mentioned in your SWOT analysis, in your opportunity section, that you see that there are a lot of data centers that would lead to growth. Now, I'm a married man, and therefore I don't use as much energy on those type of things anymore. But it is still very interesting. I think you were maybe referring to data centers, and then we are reporting to Parliament, so I guess we should get the information right. Otherwise, we might have data centers going up all over the country in the next 5 years. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Honorable van den Berg. We'll now move to Honorable Dlamini.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, once more, and colleagues. Let me take this opportunity, Chair, to welcome the presentation from the DM and her team. Chair, I would like to echo the sentiments of the colleagues who really appreciated the progress in terms of this a new department just started last year, Chair, after the separation from the Mineral Resource Department. Chair, Chair, I really appreciate the progress because the last financial year, 2025-2026, of this department indicated quite a number of underspending in critical programs, which I believe this program 1 to 5 are the priorities of the department. And department last financial year showed underspending with regard to these particular programs. I think all of them, Chair. And also the critical areas such as the compensation of employees, the payment of consultants, the goods and services, etc., Chair, which is the core, existence or mandate of this particular department. In this current financial Chair, as they have presented to us, it has shown that there is quite of a positive improvement because these critical areas within their programs, which is your program 1 to 5, showed an increase in terms of goods and services delivered to our people at the end of the day, Chair, which really give comfort to us, Uguti. If the department can strengthen this part, it will assist us a great deal, Chair, in terms of dealing with the electricity in the country. So as the issue of the transfers to provinces and municipalities, a previous financial year, it shows the decrease in terms of this allocation. But this financial current year, Chair, it shows an improvement in terms of the increase of those transfers. What do we need, Chair, moving forward with the department? Maybe in our next meeting, we will request the department to provide us the quantification per their program 1 to 5, breakdown of provinces and municipalities, so that we are able to address what Honorable Nodada referred to as the concern earlier on. Because as the NCOP, we are more the eyes and the voice of and the representatives of provinces and municipalities. So as and when we will be assisting our provinces to follow what the department is saying, it will assist us that breakdown, Chairperson. Most importantly, we know that departments such as electricity, we don't have such MSCs or such departments as independent in provinces. They only exist at national level to have a ministry. In provinces, most of provinces don't have MSCs of electricity, but those activities does exist in our provinces. So the breakdown will also assist us, Chairperson, in that regard to say, how do we follow these interventions of the department in our provinces and municipalities, and also assist our municipalities and provinces with necessary interventions, Chair. I think that breakdown will really assist us a great deal also when we have to conduct our oversights. Which areas do we focus? Which provinces that will need an immediate attention from us as the select committee, Chair. On the issue of the nuclear, I think there was a presentation or the information or indicators that showed that this program of the nuclear, it is affected by a delay, and a delay, Chair, per the previous financial year, was that there is a revised nuclear strategy that the department or government is working into. How far is that process? Because this also hinder or maybe affected the department in terms of the underspending on the previous financial year. So if this matter, it cannot get, Chair, the necessary attention, it will hinder a lot of programs that the department want to undertake, Chair, per their own priorities as indicated to us, Chair. So that is mainly the question. The last part, Chair, the unbundling of ESCOM. Chair, we have learned a lesson as a country in terms of unbundling of state-owned entities. And I think we ought to remain vigilant on the unbundling of ESCOM, so that it doesn't follow the suit of the likes of Telkom, where after unbundling of Telkom, registering Telkom at Johannesburg Stock Exchange, this state-owned entity tend to be a private company where focuses only on profit making and retrench workers day in, day out, Chair, from more than 60,000 workers to less than 20,000 workers currently in Telkom. So as much as we appreciate the unbundling of Telkom, but we will want to emphasize, Chair, that as this select committee, we are going to ensure that DM, this unbundling, doesn't follow the route of Telkom, because we can't afford a state-owned entity company that will focus on profit when the fundamental mandate of this particular department or entity, state-owned entity, is to provide services to our people in an affordable prices, Chair. So we are going to look closely on this unbundling of Telco, of ESCOM, so that it doesn't follow the suit of other state-owned entities where we have seen very drastically, retrenchment of workers, and ultimately the voice of government, faded in those particular state-owned entity, when we will no longer even know if this is a state-owned entity or a private company. Those are the input from my side, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. We'll now take Honorable Pina.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the DM and the acting DG for the presentation. Chair, my questions will be just in two parts. The first question is directed to the DM. DM, obviously, debt has been mentioned quite a few times by my colleagues today, and I think it's of critical importance. I want from my side, because it's one of the issues that's actually being debated tomorrow in the NCOP as well. And it was mentioned in our report that just Gauteng, the province of Gauteng, owes 159 million or 159 billion rand, or the municipalities due to ESCOM. Now, my angle here is a bit different from my colleagues. My concern here is something that your DG also mentioned, is that we're currently going out for loans, whether it's in Europe or the World Bank, and we're paying high interest rates, of course, on these loans on a monthly basis, while we have millions and billions of debt outstanding to your department. DM, is there any progress being made with regards to the debt collection on a month-to-month basis for the last 6 months? Are we seeing improvements from municipalities, or are we going backwards? And I want you to be very honest with us, so it's something we can address in our provinces and in our various municipalities. Because for me, it feels like it's spiraling out of control, and the debt is just increasing on a monthly basis. Why government now is forced to go out to the international markets to get these loans and cover these amazing projects that we are planning for. But I'm get the sense that if we can, to an extent, fund ourselves, if municipalities just pay the debt. If you could just give me an indication about that, DM, thank you. And then the acting DG. Acting DG, for me, it's the big issue in your presentation is about the the grid infrastructure, especially with regards to the independent transmission projects that's being planned for the 14,000. Well, I did a bit of a deep dive, DG, and this project worth is about 440 billion rand by some estimates. My big concern here is it's a lot of money that's going to be invested in our country and in infrastructure. However, the RFQ specifically removes local companies and local manufacturers from the process. And this is not as a result of your department, but to an extent it is. As we all know, Eskom has had the monopoly in South Africa for many decades with regards to transmission or grid infrastructure. But one of the requirements in your RFQ is a 15-year experience requirements for building and managing transmission lines. So automatically, the department is excluding local manufacturers. So the principal contractor or the preferred candidate will be a European or whatever entity. And I'm sure there will be subcontractors involved as well that are local and that will be worked into the contracts. However, we are deliberately excluding local service providers to be a principal contractor in this mammoth of a task that lays before you. And I want to know, is that something that your department is working on to change or not? Because I think I don't want money to leave the country wherever possible. If we have, is your department looking at changing the requirements to apply for the RFQ or not? Because I want this money as far as possible to stay in South Africa, obviously create job creation, assisting SMMEs, skills development, like you mentioned as well. But if the bulk of the project is allocated to an international firm, we all know the majority of the profits will be leaving the country, and that's my concern. So if you can just maybe. And it's also something I did discuss with the minister in one of our oral question sessions, and he did admit that yes, there is no local company that meets the requirements. Is it something you plan to change, and what are you planning to do about it? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Pienaar. Let's take Honorable Mabilo.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to the DM. My colleagues and the DG acting and all the members. Chair, I also want to acknowledge and receive the presentation as comprehensive, detailed, informative, and educative, with a lot of programs and packages. Chair, obviously, this department is steering in the right direction. I will pose the following comments and then ask 2 to 3 questions. The first one is that the new entrance in the energy space is welcome, especially around the youth, women, and people with disabilities. I would want to see that it just not be part of a lexicon or on paper, but there must be an atmosphere that is conducive to allow that vision to be realized. In other words, all impediments, all barriers pertaining to the empowerment of the youth, women, and people with disabilities in the energy space, it must be made possible and facilitated accordingly as a deliberate policy position. That's my first comment, Chair. Well, the DM, this will be to the DM. The DM has spoken about us being, as a department, to be agile, impactful, and so forth. My first question to the DM will be to say, how then do we take groundbreaking and mega projects like the green hydrogen, which is designated in Port Nolloth, Namakwaland, and in the province of the Northern Cape. How then does the DM, appraise us in terms of where are we in relation to that project? Because it has a huge, huge potential to create jobs and to contribute towards economic growth. So how far are we, DM, and what is the appetite that you have in terms of accelerating that program in collaboration with the provincial government led by Dr. Zamani Soul? The second question will relate to the CFO, acting Chief Financial Officer. 2030 is just about 4 years or 3.5 years from now. The question would be, how then, CFO, do we ensure that the department spend according to its projects identified, especially INEP, where a mention has been made that some funds were withheld from the municipalities because of non-compliance with DORA, which is the Division of Revenue Act, and its impact on service delivery and electrification of the much needed informal and formal settlements. So that is the direct question to yourself, CFO. And then obviously, I will be interested in the projects, and I will highlight just one or two. That is the gas to power project. How far are we, one, with the gas to power project as a country? And has it kicked off in any other provinces or what? How far are we, knowing that Sasol has one of the great expertise in a whole range of dimensions, especially around it. Then in the presentation, there was also a mention that we are collaborating with Mozambique in terms of getting most of our gas from Cabora Bassa. I would want to say now, no, what happens to the Greater Inga, which has been mentioned for almost more than a decade? How far is our collaboration in terms of electricity from the Greater Inga, which is in the DRC Congo? And then the last one, Honorable Chair, will relate to the issue of ESCOM, which I think my colleagues has covered me. But safe to say, Chair, how then do we ensure in the same process of us being a signatory to the Kyoto Protocol, signatories to the Paris Agreement, and all other related COPs? That said, the last one was in Mozambique, in Brazil, where the chairperson of the Select Committee and others have commented. How then do we ensure, as presented, that in terms of COP28 goals, we are fast-tracking solutions to those challenges? How repositioned are we in terms of the just transition and the removal or the reduction of the green gas emissions? Those are my brief comments and questions. Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Notwithstanding the repositioning of the country in terms of geopolitics of energy. Thank you, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Mabilo. Councillor Pukunzi, I want to invite you. You know, electricity affects mostly at the local government level. I'm sure as South African Local Government Association, you have a view. It might not necessarily be a question, it could be a comment or point, clarity seeking or something. But I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go without speaking.
No, Chair, thanks. Let's welcome the presentation by the department written to the DM. Chair, two things. in terms of the INEP chair, there are challenges with the INEP. It's a question. I'll make a comment. The majority of municipalities will have an allocation for the cycle of 3 years. In the process, the INEP allocation is no longer coming front and the project has already processed. So that on its own creates a serious challenge for municipalities. Is there a way that that particular matter can be resolved? That will be the question. We welcome the presentation, Chair, precisely because it will help us assist in the areas where ESCOM is a sole provider. Because as your opening remarks, we are saying that we'll be heading for the winter season, Chair, and we know that the electricity poverty and electricity provision it's a serious challenge, especially where municipalities are not the ones that are providing and ESCOM is providing, because we've got challenges of people that are, especially indigenous people, that would have people that are staying in their backyard, and those people are the ones that are stealing electricity from ESCOM, and they will be punished because of those particular, even if they report, because yesterday I get that particular report to say there is one community member that reported to ESCOM that they got their backyard dwellers that have actually stole electricity, and nothing to date is not done. And they are the ones that are punished. But in terms of processing the electrification in the township, because in most areas townships are electrified by ESCOM, how long does it take? Because we were told that the process will start during the financial year of ESCOM, of which started on the 1st of April. But the process is not coming forth, and that on its own it creates problem for all of us. But really, we appreciate the work that is being done by the department in ensuring that the communities have electricity, and they are working together with us. They don't take decisions without consulting SALGA, and there is a meeting that is actually planned to have SALGA and municipalities in that particular meeting. We appreciate, even though we don't have a min-max because we don't have MCs for electricity, but we know from time to time that the ministry always consult with us, and we really appreciate that. We'll support the SALGA where we can support, but I heard about 200 municipalities that are identified. If we can have also the list of those municipalities, so that at least where there are challenges, we are able to actually unlock the bottlenecks for the department to be able to reach its own goals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councillor. You see, we appreciate the information that you just shared, that the department, even though they might not have MECs like Honorable Dlamini was indicating, they do reach out to SALGA and engage with yourselves on a number of things. This is good. I didn't know that. And you can imagine we would be taking it for granted that department is not engaging with yourselves. I'm glad that they do. And I wish when you speak to your colleagues, please invite them. They should not only be about the energy and electricity. There are a number of activities that are taking place that we, as a committee, are doing, where we would appreciate to have SALGA in our meeting so that we are able to share frustrations and the way forward. And I'm sure there are a number of solutions that you are sitting with as SALGA that you can share with us and see how best can you help the people of South Africa. With that, I want to invite the DM to respond to questions that she feels that they are more political in nature, and then the administration to deal with administrative issues. DM?
Right, thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the members for the wonderful feedback, for the compliments to the team, and for the really great questions. So let me just let me address the municipal space as a whole. So one of the things obviously that we need to acknowledge is that Eskom debt in municipalities is not an Eskom debt issue. Eskom debt in municipalities is a symptom of the space in which municipalities are functioning. And it is just one of the problems that municipalities have because they are underfunded and they're battling to pay all their accounts. Water is equally affected as much as Eskom is affected. So this is not about Eskom. This is about municipalities and a systemic funding crisis in municipalities. Now, we're obviously having a number of interministerial committees on this. We've had a number of engagements with various role players in the department on this. But while the white paper is being addressed, while the conversation around the funding of municipalities is being undertaken, we obviously have to find a way to support Munics. Honourable Boshoff spoke about Eskom debt and the DAAs. Now, the DAAs are obviously, so these are your distribution agency agreements that Eskom has come up with. And effectively what it does is it gives the municipality the opportunity to hand over the collection of revenue and the handling of maintenance to Eskom on the distribution side of their energy business. The problem we've now encountered is that a DAA can't just be implemented unless a Section 78 process is undertaken by the municipality. Now, the problem with that is that requires capacity and it requires money. And most municipalities that are already at a point where they require a DAA obviously don't have the capacity or the money to undertake that. Now, in terms of what the council has said about SALGA, my office actually met with SALGA yesterday to discuss primarily the Section 78 issues and the DAAs. And what SALGA are doing is that they're putting together a panel of experts. They've gone out for call to bring in these panel of experts to assist municipalities with the Section 78 process. We are also looking for ways that we can assist them to facilitate that process to make it a lot easier and more cost effective. So we are in conversation with SALGA on that. The other thing that SALGA are doing, and that is to come back to somebody else who asked, Honourable van den Berg asked about the cost of supply studies for NERSA. So SALGA have also got a work stream on cost of supply studies. At the moment, they are helping 9 municipalities to do a proper cost of supply study. But what they're doing is as part of that cost of supply study, they're also going to capacitate those munics to be able to do those cost of supply studies on their own going forward. So the idea is not just to assist them, but also to give them the capacity to carry on with that. In terms of NERSA's role in that, one of the things that we're doing from our office is that we are facilitating a coordination between NERSA and the National Youth Development Agency under the auspices of the National Youth Service, where we are facilitating the appointment of young people in Munichs to assist NERSA with finalization of documentation that's required for tariff applications and potentially for cost of supply studies, so that we are facilitating employment of young people. These will be people that live in the municipal areas that are being, that are requiring their assistance. So we're making sure that rural youth in particular are getting these opportunities. And then obviously it's a way to ensure that NERSA receives additional capacity while they are going through these processes. So that is one of the ways we're addressing the cost of supply studies, the Section 78, because we want to look at whether or not we can then do an MOU between SALGA and NYDA to make sure that we can use young people in the facilitation of the Section 78 process. So that is one of the things that we're doing. In response to Honourable Boshoff with regard to load reduction, and I'm sure that the officials will give you a more detailed breakdown of that. Load reduction effectively happens when there is a threat to the network. So where there is electricity theft, there are too many people that are using electricity on a specific area. Load reduction has to be implemented to protect infrastructure. We've embarked on a process to eliminate load reduction, and our goal is to eliminate it by March of next year. But I'm sure the officials will give you more details as to why that is happening. I'm not entirely sure whether it is being done as a punitive measure. The only time that has been done in the past was when the notifiable maximum demand was hit by a municipality. But we would have to check. I would have to check. I don't know if the officials have a response on your particular municipality. But ordinarily, load reduction speaks to the protection of infrastructure. We'll also come back on the solar water heater program. I know we're trying to close out that last program as we develop a new one. So I'm sure that DDG Kakana can answer on that question. The officials can also talk on the unbundling. Honourable van den Berg, you asked whether or not unbundling is the best option given where we are at now. Unfortunately, it's the only option because it's actually legislated. So in terms of the ERA, we have to do the unbundling. It's not a question of whether we want to or not. So that is a process that has to happen whether we want to do it or not. Then just in terms of the question that Honourable Pina was asking. So you want an honest thing? No, we're not resolving the Eskom debt crisis at this stage. I don't believe National Treasury have done enough to support municipalities that are in a debt crisis with Eskom. I think one of the problems we've done is we have, and I said this in a meeting the other day, is we keep asking the question of what instead of the question of why. So municipalities operate within a specific context. Every municipality operates in its own context. And every municipality has a reason why they are unable to pay Eskom debt. So you hear National Treasury say things like, oh, municipalities are providing unfunded budgets. And then we send them back and tell them they can't. Now, the question should be, why is your budget unfunded? Clearly, there's an operational issue that exists where there's this disjuncture between your revenue and your income and your expenditure. So why are we not looking at what that problem is? Instead, National Treasury says to them, go back and rework your budget. So they just manipulate the figures and they come back and they say, oh, look, we don't have an unfunded budget anymore. This is now a funded budget. We know that that's not a real reflection of where they're at. So our problem here is not about the Eskom debt. And obviously we're looking at stuff. So one of the things we're doing in our office is we're developing a municipal toolkit where we can go to a municipality and say, okay, we're going to have a look at when SALGA do the Section 78 interventions, we can then look at that municipality and say, okay, this is what your energy business looks like in your municipality. Now, how can we help you fix that? And then we come in with a toolkit that's got policies that are already in place for them just to adopt. We've got contracts that they can put into operation with IPPs as an example to buy cheaper electricity. We can help them with small-scale embedded generation. We can help them with wheeling. We can help them with the legislation so that we can make sure that they're compliant. So the idea is that we work hand in glove with SALGA. SALGA goes and does Section 78 interventions, and then we come in and look for solutions as to how we can help them have a more profitable electricity business. But at this stage, everybody is just beating municipalities and nobody is supporting them. You can't go in and have an intervention and then you don't provide additional support and capacity. So if a municipality has reached a point where they are in crisis, then surely the answer is that we go in and find out why are they in crisis and what can we do to change that. So we are working with DBSA as well because they've got municipal interventions. They also are prepared to assist with electricity master plans for municipalities. We are developing this municipal toolkit so that we can go in and facilitate their energy business. And obviously then we're also working with SALGA to see how we can support them even further. So that is the level of intervention that we're doing. But we have to start looking at each individual municipality. We can't go in with this global approach because it's not working. It hasn't worked for a number of years, and it's not going to work now if we keep on doing it. So those are, I think, my interventions in terms of what was asked. Thank you for all of you who said such kind things. Oh, and then finally, to Honourable Farmer, you asked the question about why I'm praising the ADG and the acting CFO and I'm not appointing them. We don't do catered deployment in our department. There are processes that have to be followed. We have to open up those processes and everybody has to be given the opportunity to apply. And on that basis, we then have to shortlist. We can't just appoint a CFO and we can't just appoint a DG. We have to follow processes. So that is the reason why we haven't just appointed. I hope that answers the questions. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that the acting DG and the officials will be able to answer the rest of the questions.
So, Richard, DM has not answered the green hydrogen question.
Oh, I do apologize. You're quite correct. I thought I'd got. So in terms of that, so green hydrogen, there was a hell of a lot of hype around green hydrogen when we first came into office. And that's kind of died down substantially because people are recognizing that the cost implications of green hydrogen are huge. 75% of a green hydrogen plant is the renewable energy portion that has to be built and developed in order for that to operate. Now, you need to have substantial input, you need to have substantial investment. So around the country, there are about 5 green hydrogen projects currently that are in various stages of development. The furthest away from realization is the Buchu Bay project because at this stage, we've still got to develop the port. So there's a huge amount of infrastructure development that has to happen before the Buchu Bay project can actually start to be developed. So while green hydrogen doesn't have the same hype that it had in the past, it is still a priority for us. It is still part of the conversation in terms of our energy mix. But there is a lot of work that has to be done by the province before we can come in from an energy perspective and do the green hydrogen element of that. There is one in Priska that has received a fair amount of funding. There is a private green hydrogen program that's happening outside Saldanha. The Hive project in Kuche has received a substantial injection of money from the EU. So those projects are in various stages, but Buchuba still remains quite far off in terms of the ultimate realization of the project. So I'm sorry I can't give you better news on that. But obviously we need to make sure that the port development and all the other things around that are happening in conjunction with us developing the green hydrogen aspect of it. I don't know if the officials can add any more information to that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, TM. Acting DG, we're waiting for you and your team.
Thanks, Chairperson. Okay, I'll deal with the first couple of questions, and then I'll ask the colleagues to respond to the remaining ones. Just on the Grand Inga, so we are pursuing the Grand Inga scheme. In fact, just last week, as I indicated in the presentation, we hosted the AU STC for energy and transport. One of the big takeaways there was the absolute urgency to pursue the Grand Inga. Of course, it's a complicated project because you have to deal with the generation side in the DRC on the body of Inga 3, on the body of water that's there, and then you have to build a transmission infrastructure. The simple point is that we've not abandoned the project. Difficult as it is, we've made a very firm commitment, and that commitment was endorsed by the African Union's specialized committee last week. Then on the issue of I think Honorable Pinar raised the question around whether we've deliberately excluded local players in the built environment for the ITP. Now, I think the simple answer is no, we haven't. If you look at the economic development requirements, it places a significant requirement on any developer to meet criteria in terms of local sourcing, local manufacturing, local management expertise. And we've actually codified that, hard-coded it into the functionality requirements. So we've not left it to the 80-20-70-30 principle, or 90-10 principle rather. Because what people tend to do then is they focus on one area just to get the 10% and everything else drops. So we've built it into the functionality requirements. Now, the issue of the specific issue the Honourable Member raised is around the experience of up to 10 years, or 15 years rather, in building transmission lines. Now, unfortunately, it is a reality of our situation that because transmission has been a state monopoly up to now, there isn't any local capacity that can build transmission infrastructure. And we are dealing with a critical element of the build program. So it is important that at get-go, the program has the requisite capacity to ensure it delivers on time to the levels of efficiency and to the cost levels that we've scoped. And to do that, you do need to bring in international experience. This is phase one of the ITP program. It's 1,164 kilometers of the 14,000 kilometers of lines that must be built. So we are using this as a building block, as a building experience to capacitate local developers, local operators, to gain the experience in building transmission line. So we're quite confident that over and above the localization components we've built into the tender specification, incrementally over a period of time, we will have greater numbers of South African developers emerging as lead developers in the consortia that build out the program, the ITP program. I think DDG Kekana will deal a bit on the load reduction. I just want to make the point that, as DM correctly points out, we have developed a specific load reduction program. It might be, I mean, I think it was Honorable Tlamini who asked that we provincialize the input. I think it's difficult, bar for INAP, perhaps, and load reduction, it would be difficult to provincialize. We can geolocate where these projects happen, but you're not going to almost find, to use a colloquial term, a geographic spread of projects, just in the nature of how energy location decisions are taken. But there are two specific projects. The INAP is one, where we can certainly give you a provincial layout of what projects are happening, where, at what municipal level, to the question, to the point raised by the Honorable Councillor from Salga. And then in relation to the load reduction program, I think, Chair, with your permission, if we could be favored with an opportunity to present the load reduction program to this committee. I think it's important that the members of this committee who represents the provinces and represent local government are aware of the work that we're doing around eradicating the load reduction program. We've made significant progress. I think over 60,000 houses have now been taken out of load reduction. 3 provinces have been cleared. It's the Northern Cape, the Western Cape, and I don't want to mislead the committee. So there's a third province. We'll present that in the presentation. The rest of the work continues in other provinces. There are 3 provinces are proving extremely difficult. It's Gauteng, it's KwaZulu-Natal, and it's Mpumalanga. These 3 provinces, we've got the highest incident of load reduction occurrence. We've got the highest incident of illegal connection, and which is causing the problem of load reduction in the first place. So we are taking a different approach in the sense that it requires a great deal more of intensity of engagement with communities, to give them the sense that as we eradicate, as we decouple the illegal connections, we don't leave people without electricity. Of course, these should be regularized and legal paid connections. So, Chair, I think concretely what I'm suggesting is that if with your permission, will be afforded an opportunity to present the load reduction program. Then on the funded vacancies, the 3, as the DM had indicated, the DG, the CFO, and the corporate services are in the process of being finalized. The remaining, because we had concurrently been dealing with 2 things. One is the restructuring of the design, the organizational design for the department. And secondly, the DPSA introduced a new job evaluation process in June of last year. So before we even attempted to fill those posts, the first thing we needed to answer is, do these posts align with what the organizational design is requiring? So when we talk about that fit for purpose design, do these positions address themselves to giving us the capability we're looking for to build a functional department? Secondly, when we've done that, we need to subject it to the job evaluation process. Both of those have now been done. We've cleared the job evaluation process, and we are in now ready to issue them to market for or to issue them for advertisement and recruitment processes to commence. So that's on the issue of the vacancies in the department. I think that was Honorable Langisa who raised the question. Honorable Palmer, I, as I said to the Chair, our sincere apologies. Chair, through you, if there are members who would have had burning questions to ask, and as a result of our delay, we're not able to, we're quite happy to receive those questions in writing, Chair, and we will most certainly make every effort to give you a very comprehensive answer to those questions. And again, apologies. Chair, I'm going to ask DDG Kekana to deal with some of the issues that relate to the INAP program, the solar water geyser program, and perhaps DDG want to also just touch on the DAAs. And then DDG Bagwanan, Dr. Bagwanan will deal with the work we're doing around the tariff, the energy pricing policy in relation to bringing down the cost of electricity. And then there was a question around the Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, and so on, and our commitments at COP. Didi, if you can pick up that question. And then, of course, Didi Zimbabwe will deal with the nuclear strategy. And finally, the CFO will deal with the question of finance. I think it's the question around financing was addressed to the CFO, but really, I think it's a question for Didi Kekana. So, Didi, maybe when you respond, you can maybe touch on it, but the CFO may want to consolidate. Colleagues, if I may ask you in that order, Didi Kekana, please.
Thank you, DG and the chairperson. And of course, the DM on the DAA issues, I think the DM has covered it in terms of the Section 78 processes that most Munichs are currently dealing with. But just another feedback, we have successfully, I think, signed about 3 to 4 municipalities. One that comes to mind is Maluti. I just can't seem to recall the others. Those we are starting to see a needle turning in the right direction with those signed up municipalities. I think to DG's point, as we will be, if we can be afforded that opportunity, we need to come back and brief the committee on load reduction. We'll ensure that we couple that together with the DAA so that we provide that full picture of where we're heading. On the INEP, to Honorable Councillor Pukunzi, sorry if my apologies if I butchered your surname. There are challenges you are correctly said. I think the main challenge with INEP program, it's in two folds. Number one, and this is common. We have capacity constraints within the municipalities, and when I say capacity, these are the technical capacities, the warm bodies in terms of electricians, technicians, and engineers to implement all these projects. And in most cases, aligned with the DORA program, we have a fixed one financial year to implement any project that will be on the pipeline. So that in most cases it poses a challenge, given the fact that most municipalities in other areas will find that they don't even have a technician or an engineer. But what we're doing as a department, I've also indicated that we've gone to cabinet, presented our case to repurpose INEP. I think one of the key interventions that we're bringing on board is for us to establish that project management office within the DBSA. The aim of establishing the office is also to provide technical capacity and support to all the participating municipalities in the INEP program. So with the centralized PMO, I think there's one thing that we will be able to do. We'll be able to attract engineers in the industry, even retired engineers and current young and up and coming engineers, pay the market related salaries, centralized within the DBSA, and of course deploy those technical expertise within the participating municipalities. I think with that intervention, we'll start seeing an improvement in an expenditure. The second key challenges within INEP, Honorable Pukunzi, you will see that on an annual basis, our INEP allocation is sitting at 4 billion. If I were to give you an example, the amount of applications that we receive, of course, we're looking at over 200 municipalities submitting applications annually. If you had to sum all the projects and provide a figure of the amount of needs, and basically most needs are seen on infrastructure. You'll agree with me. I mean, we've gone many years with this infrastructure backlog. So we have a 4 billion budget allocated through Treasury, but the needs are sitting at between 30 to 50 billion rands on an annual basis. So with this limited budget, yes, looking at 200 municipalities to support, we just try a little our best in order to allocate accordingly, and bulk of the budget or bulk of the need resides within infrastructure refurbishment. I mean, we need new substations, we need to upgrade distribution lines, and so forth and so forth. So we're also sitting with that problem. But at the same time, with the repurposing of INEP, we have managed to establish the funding requirements. We hope that with this development of this funding model that we are currently doing with the support of AFDB, we'll be able to come back with a comprehensive package to address all the needs, particularly from infrastructure backlog point of view. And on moving swiftly on the solar water heater program, I think the DM did touch on it. We know that this is a legacy program. It's been around for more than a decade. And as the new department, we've taken a stand to say that we are now tapering the old program out. I'm happy to report that, number one, we don't have any remaining, we're not incurring any high storage cost. There are no solar heater units that are currently stored where we are incurring storage cost. We are remaining with about, I think, just under about 500 units for installations, and mainly those units are located in Polokwane. Bulk of the units that are lying in other provinces or municipalities as a result of the current litigation process that we are undergoing. I think we have about four contractors that with the matters in various stages of litigation. So I think perhaps the member, when he's referring to 3,000 units in storage, that will be mainly due to the current litigation that we are going through. And we strongly believe that, of course, we have a strong case because most of those units were actually, they were delivered with defects. So hence they could not be installed. But lastly, on the program, I think for this year, we are aiming to close the program. And at the same time, we are redesigning the program. We will call it National Solar Water Heater 2.0. And in that revised program, we'll ensure that we're not only rolling out the solar water heater, we are coupling that with energy efficiency interventions. We're coupling that with the provision of clean cooking. So we will be having LPG. So that is the new, I'll say, design of the program that we will be focusing our energies on in the current financial year. I think am I missing anything? I'm just checking my notes. The ITP DG covered it. On the Namaqualand, I think DM, she was responding directly on the green hydrogen development. And yes, I agree with the DG, with the DM. Currently, we know that the cost association with green hydrogen, they're on the high side. But we are not only stopping on that. Within the Namaqualand, as earmarked as an SEZ in Northern Cape, what we are also doing in our design of the new RFP or the REAP program, we are also conceptualizing the introduction of a power park. So one of the areas or location that we are targeting is that area, the Namaqualand SEZ. We want to develop, I think, in the region of 1 gigawatt power park. In the power park, obviously, we'll have solar generation coupled with battery storage. So that is one of the key focus areas that we will be doing to ensure that we develop the SEZ accordingly. On the gas to power program, yes, currently the gas to power program, the RFP, it's out in the market for the procurement of 2 gigawatt of gas to power. We are anticipately waiting for the bid submission. Bid submission date is currently set at 29th of May. So 29th of May, we eagerly waiting to receive those bids, and hopefully we'll receive bankable bids, having learned from the first round. So I think, yeah, post 29th of May, we'll have a feel in terms of where the program is heading. So we are confident that we'll be able to deliver on the 2 gig of gas to power that is before us. I think on my side, I'm not sure. These are the notes that I have, DG. Let me hand back to you, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, perhaps thanks, DG. CFO, maybe just to close the loop, if you want to respond to the question on the allocations for INEP going forward.
Yes, thank you, DG. I think DG Kekana has already covered the issue around the repurposing of INEP, because that whole repurposing as well, and also part of having the DBSA being part of the PMO is to look at some of the challenges, or to address also some of the challenges that the municipalities are facing in terms of the technical capacity and so forth. So from where we're standing currently in terms of DORA, we have to make sure that, unfortunately, money not spent, obviously we cannot go against what DORA is saying. So if money is not spent, it has to go back to National Treasury. And then also in terms of if ever there's no progress, obviously that money will have to be withheld. But there's work that the department is doing in with the PMO and other projects within the EEDSM to make sure that we technically support the municipalities to make sure that they can spend on their allocations. Thank you.
Thanks, CFO. DG Babu, you want to deal with the nuclear strategy question, please?
Yes, thank you very much, DG. On the nuclear matter, I think it's very important that we provide the perspective is that when we talk about the nuclear new build, we look into both the power applications as well as the non-power applications of our nuclear expansion in the country. And if we look into these two elements, then on the non-power application side, already we've alluded to the fact that we are embarking on the multi-purpose reactor, which is led by NECSA, and work is at an advanced stage in terms of this project, and NECSA is engaging the environmental impact assessment studies, as well as NECSA is busy working on the preparation for the procurement of the multi-purpose reactor. So there's work that is proceeding on that front to make sure that we continue to lead into our research and development, and also to be one of the top suppliers of the radioisotopes. Then on the other element of the program, DG, you've already alluded to that we are also embarking on the work on the small modular reactors, and that's the power application side, whereby NECSA has already issued the expression of interest to look for partners in the market so that we can develop and build the first small modular reactor in South Africa. And that work is proceeding well. NECSA has recently been having briefings to the prospective market suppliers that are interested to work with South Africa to advance on this question. Then on the issue of the back end of the nuclear fuel cycle, you've already alluded to, DM, that our entity, the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Institute, has already been working on the development of the Central Interim Storage Facility, which is a project that will seek to ensure that we have a sustainable long-term waste management for high-level radioactive waste. And that work is proceeding well. The work is now, the entity is now undertaking the design development work as well as the environmental impact assessment studies for that project. Then if we look into the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle, the Deputy Minister has alluded to that NECSA is making progress in terms of our nuclear fuel supply business, to look into all the different phases of supplying fuel. And the DG has alluded to that we are advancing that work on the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle to make sure that we can ensure the security of energy supply and the sovereign of the country. And in that direction, NECSA is advancing various projects on the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle. And when we look into the power generation side in terms of the allocation that the IRP has provided, we've already indicated that the IRP has allocated 5,200 megawatts of the nuclear build program that must be deployed by the country by 2039. And in that direction, Eskom, which is the owner and the operator of the nuclear power plants in South Africa, is advancing that work to make sure that we are ready to deploy that capacity. The siting work has already been started. Recently, Eskom is undertaking the environmental impact assessment studies in the site that is earmarked for the nuclear new build, that is Thuisband in the Eastern Cape. And recently, Eskom has been engaging the stakeholders to advance the environmental impact assessment. So that work is already now started in terms of the siting. And also there's a site next to Quebec, the Dennfontein, and that work for siting is also in progress. And also we've highlighted that we will be reviewing the plan for the deployment of the 5,200 megawatt program to ensure that we meet the target date of 2039 that the IRP has directed that we meet. And work is in progress in terms of developing this plan so that we could then roll out the plan and start issuing out the RFP and start inviting the prospective suppliers of these technologies. And also there's work that we are doing in terms of looking into the coal to nuclear. As you honorable members are aware that some of the coal-fired power plants will be decommissioned post-2030. And to make sure that we can retain our capacity in terms of the baseload capacity, Eskom is hard at work in terms of site investigation in the areas where we've got some of the coal-fired power plants that will be decommissioned, to make sure that we look into repurposing those coal-fired power plants through the small modular reactors. And our strategy is to make sure that the SMR that is being demonstrated by NECSA, in the long term, we will then be looking into deploying these SMRs into some of the repurposed coal-fired power plants. So that's the totality of the work that we're looking into on the nuclear new build, that when we undertake this work, there's lots of industrialization that is going to come out as a result of deploying all these different elements of the nuclear program, both in the front end and in the back end. And also we've already alluded to that we are also developing the nuclear industrialization plan, which seeks to determine the viability of deploying the 10 gigawatts of the nuclear build program and re-establishing the full nuclear value chain, as we've already reported. And then the skills development work is in progress to make sure that we train the pipelines of the nuclear professionals, as we will be embarking on this massive nuclear new build program to ensure that the country advance in the area of nuclear program, both for power and the non-power application, and also advance into the area of small modular reactors. DG, I'd like to stop there and hand back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, DDG. Then, Chair, lastly, I'll ask DDG Pagwadan to deal with Honorable van der Berg's question. I can just confirm, Honorable van der Berg, that indeed we were building data centers and not dating centers. So please accept that correction. DDG, Dr. Pagwadan.
Okay, thanks, DDG. So I will answer some of the questions that haven't been answered. So the first one, I'd just like to add on the debt programs, that DAAs are only part of the solution to the debt program that we are busy with. So the department has strengthened collaboration with both COGTA and National Treasury. And National Treasury has several programs to assist municipalities, to strengthen them so that they can, have better service delivery, assistance in cost of supply studies. And some of these programs include the Metro Trading Service Program, the Municipal Support Program, the Cities Support Program, and the Munich Finance Improvement Program. So this, coupled with the DAAs, are put in place to assist with this escalating debt. And, the debt now stands at 111 billion rand. In terms of the DAAs, 3 municipalities have already signed the DAAs. the National Treasury has removed 14 municipalities from the municipal debt relief program because they have not paid, in 18 months, any of the monies. So they were taken off that program, and 9 of those municipalities have been given the go-ahead by their councils to sign the DAAs with Eskom. So that program is advancing. In terms of the load reduction, we did say that we would come back with a more detailed presentation. But in the load reduction program, there are 971 feeders, which impacts about 1.6 million customers. And as of April this year, 211 feeders have been taken out of this load reduction, and also 268,677 customers have been removed from this load reduction. But for the detailed Munich and per feeder presentation, we will come back. In terms of unbundling of Eskom, you would remember that at the height of load shedding in 2019, the Department of Public Enterprises had put out the Eskom in a reformed electricity supply industry, and in this roadmap, Eskom was to be unbundled into 3 subsidiaries, 100% state-owned subsidiaries, an Eskom generation, transmission, and distribution. The reason for doing that, is to improve the accountability, the transparency, the operational efficiency, and then the cost accountability that was required at Eskom. Then further to that, we also stated that the country should not be relying on one entity for the electricity capacity. And then we also agreed that we needed to have more private sector participation. In that, we then amended the Electricity Regulation Act, which calls now for the creation of a competitive electricity market, and then the establishment of an independent transmission system operator. So the further unbundling into a transmission system of independent transmission system operator outside of Eskom, that study and work is being undertaken by National Treasury, and we are now seized with that. So the unbundling of Eskom, it's about bringing accountability, transparency, and I just want to make the point that it's 100% state-owned entities. So whether the transmission system operator, is taken out of Eskom to report to the department, it will still be 100% state-owned entity. Then, in terms of
Doc,
yes.
I'm terribly sorry. I tried, but I can't. Members, it's almost 12 minutes after the time that the meeting was supposed to end, and there are activities that members have to attend to. How long will you take before you conclude your responses?
I think 5 minutes, or even
It's too much.
3.
It's too much. 5 minutes is too much. We can't.
Okay.
I mean, we've gone way beyond the time. Our meeting was supposed to be 10 until 1. And you can see members have not even had an opportunity to ask the follow-up questions because of time constraints. And we seem to be going on and on and on in responses and not summarizing our response. It's 13:12. I'll give you until 13:15. Please summarize your response, please.
Okay. Noted, Chairperson. So in terms of the affordability, the electricity pricing policy, we are now putting it out for public comment. We're busy with that process. What that does is that it addresses the issues of affordability. So there will be protection for low-income customers with the FBE. We would also, look at an extension of the FBE and then making FBE a grant to integrate into the Universal Access Program. There will also be the negotiated price agreements for industries under distress. There would also be provision for the competitive market, and over time, electricity prices will reduce in a competitive market. In terms of the question on crime and fraud at Eskom, the board has strengthened governance and compliance systems and improved controls to prevent crime, fraud, and corruption. Consequence management has also been strengthened in Eskom. Eskom now prioritizes systemic prevention and intelligence-driven investigations, and a center for Raptor Fusion Center has been established, and this is to focus on anti-fraud and corruption, as well as 8 external service providers have been sourced to address forensic backlogs at Eskom. Thank you, Chairperson. That's me. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that concludes the questions. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you so much. Honorable members, I want to take this opportunity to personally apologize for going beyond time. I don't know, maybe next time when we meet with the department, we'll try and meet 2 hours before. So we don't meet with them at 10, but we meet at 8, so that at least we were able to go through, because you can see there's so much amount of work that has been done in the department. And you would remember I had already indicated that we have not done much in relation to the energy and electricity issues as a committee. And probably when we come from CREDOC, we'll then have to have a discussion with the department from what we'll have learned in CREDOC, because we believe that if we could be able to assist in resolving issues in CREDOC, that could be used as a source to all other municipalities. So immediately when we come back from CREDOC, we'll have to have a proper engagement with the department. I also want to propose that we defer the minutes so that we do not waste too much time. And we'll tackle the minutes in the next meeting. Probably we'll start with the minutes before we invite the department into the meeting. Any other department that will be meeting within the next meeting, so that we're able to push the work of the committee. With those few words, I want to take this opportunity once more to thank you, the Deputy Minister, for always being available. Thank the department led by the acting DG, and hopefully by the time we meet, this post will have been filled, so that at least people know whether they are coming or going, so that their commitment to the department is based on what is before them. With those few words, honorable members, DM and the colleagues from the department and the committee, thank you so much until we meet again. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Record.